Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto masters Shadow Clone Jutsu early and shows his true power. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. The distance from Kusagakure and the festival village back to Konoha was too far to make in a single day, even at the pace Tsunade drove them, and when they finally stopped for the night, I made a beeline for Shikako, who was in the process of extricating herself from the overbearing presence of Gai-sensei. Thanks for looking after her, Gai-sensei, I said, snagging Shikako's bag from where it sat next to the two and slipping my arm around the groggy-looking Shikako's waist. I don't, she yawned, need looking after, Sasuke. I'm fine, I swear. Shikako protested. I disagreed. Shikako, you're not even at 1/5 your normal chakra capacity. Please take your own advice and let us take your weight for once. YOSH. It is not shameful to require the assistance of a teammate when not at full strength. She yawned again, and gave a sleepy smile before throwing her arm over my shoulder. Fine, you're clingy when you're protective, Sasuke. I am not clingy, Shikako, I protested, reflexively checking over my shoulder for the rampaging monster known as the common fangirl. Thank Kami Ino wasn't here to hear that. I set her down with her back to the trunk of an oak. The rest of the rookie 9 approached soon after. Ino immediately began to discuss something about earrings with Shikako. I wasn't interested, so I approached when Kiba, who was standing alongside the others, gestured for me to come over. We're going hunting, Akamaru and I caught the scent of deer a mile or two back, and we thought we'd bring one back to celebrate these. He explained, plucking at the thick collar of the Chunin soft body armor he was proudly wearing over his hoodie. You want in? Sure, I answered, looking back at Keiko. Who's going? We passing out jobs for those who aren't? The Hyuga answered. We've talked about it on our way here. Choji, Ino, Lee, and Hinata-sama will stay with Shikako and get everything set up. Choji and Kiba will cook whatever we bring back. You, myself, Tenten and Kiba will split into 2 teams and act as an ambush team and a find and chase team. Hinata-sama is informing Tsunade-sama and our sensei of the plan as we speak. 1 tracker per team? That's efficient. I assume Tenten will be performing the kill? I asked. Tenten nodded. Yep, no better job for a girl with 100% accuracy. Makes things simple. You, Kiba, and Niji will chase em right into me. We'll be back in 2 hours. Kiba boasted. Hold up, we need to talk. Kiba announced, after we had set Tenten up and we were almost in position. The Hyuga sighed. I figured this was about something more than celebratory venison. If this about what happened to Keiko, speak up. I'm listening. I want Kusa to burn. I agreed. It's about more than just Shikako-chan. This has been on my mind since Naruto got attacked by your psycho brother Sasuke. Kiba started. You're not the only one. I balled my fists at the reminder. The kidnapping attempt was just the final straw for me. Kiba continued. This has gone on too long. First you get attacked by Orochimaru, and he puts a freaky-looking hickey of evil on your fucking neck, and he sends a squad out to kill you, which would have succeeded if Shikako hadn't turned your campsite into a death trap. Then I find out that shitty Weasel and the Walking Death Sushi want Naruto dead. They want Gaara dead too, don't they, for that thing he's got inside him? I nodded. Yeah, they do. Kiba was pacing in rage. That figures, it's probably why they want Naruto. Anyway, after that Orochimaru decides that giving you that thing of his, it's not enough, he wants to possess you. Now it's Shikako. Kiba pointed at Niji. And don't think that Kumo trying to snag Hinata-chan when we were younger doesn't piss me off too. This is the most pissed off I've ever seen him. What's worse is that you know what's common in all of this. We lose, or we barely come out even. Capturing those sound freaks was nice, but now you can't even leave the village. Why? Because some narcissistic, mad scientist with a kick for possessing other people wants your body. I shuddered. Thanks, Kiba. Now I get to have nightmares about Orochimaru leading the fangirl charge in the race to claim me as theirs. I want payback. I'm tired of my people getting hunted like rabbits, and not being able to do a Kami be damned thing about it. Niji gave Kiba a cautious look. You're talking about a non-sanctioned strike against a foreign country. I understand where you're coming from, Kiba, and I agree with it. But I like not being a missing nin and a traitor a lot more. Whatever you're suggesting can't go that far. Kiba shook his head. No, nothing that drastic. And we don't want a war with a nation like Kumo, but if I'm on a mission and a Kusanin crosses my path, he's dead, no excuses. It's too late with Kumo, but I'm with Sasuke, Kusa will bleed for this. And we'll train, and in 3 years when Jiraiya brings Naruto back and Itachi and his friends come for him, we'll be ready. They'll never know what hit them. Yes. I'm with you, Kiba, and Shikamaru will agree with you. I couldn't get him to stop hounding me after he put Keiko-chan in the hospital, but Itachi is mine. The wide-open gates of Konohagakure no Sato stood tall and proud as ever, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief as they entered. It's good to be home, Kiba commented gratefully. It's good to have you home, dog breath. Why? Because it was disturbingly too peaceful around here without your incessant barking. A voice returned from above. Shino! Kiba called excitedly to the shinobi crouched on the top of the nearby electrical pole. Get down here, you bug-infested son of a bitch! That name does not apply to me, Kiba. Shino explained as he casually hopped down from his perch and strode over to his peers. Why? Because my mother is not a female canine, which is more than I can say for you, my friend. Kiba slapped his hand over his heart with a wounded expression on his face before yanking Shino into a loose one-armed headlock. Not going to dispute the bug infestation part, Shino? Sasuke asked dryly. I am an Aburame, that is nothing to be ashamed of, copycat. The Uchiha conceded the point. I see that you have all made Chunin, congratulations. Why? Because this promotion was a long time in coming, and I am glad we all stand on equal ground again. Shino praised, prying himself loose of Kiba. Thanks, Shino, Shikako, who as of that morning was on her feet again, said with a grin at Kiba's antics. Shino inclined his head. How were the exams? He asked, leading the way into the village after moving his way to Hinata's side. And not bad, we all did very well, she said quietly but happily. Hinata did amazing, Shikako commented. She smashed Kankuro and his puppet out of the ring in one hit with some sort of chakra fist. Shino looked surprised at that. I would be interested to see this. Why? Because I was not aware you had a new move to show. I would be glad to, Shino. The 10 shinobi walked further into the village before breaking up into our separate groups. Team 8 got firmly pulled in the direction of the Inuzuka district, and Team Guy split up to go back to their homes. You coming with me all the way back home? Shikako asked. Or are you going to come back for dinner? Sasuke shook his head. I think I need to go dig some things out of storage. Uchiha stuff? She asked slowly. He nodded. Yeah. Do you want me to come with you? She offered. Sasuke hesitated, seriously thinking it over. It's okay if you don't, I just want to see if I can find some of the old police vests that are in my size. You go home, I'm sure your family is going to want to hear about Kusa's indiscretion before Shikako-san hears it from Tsunade-sama. Shikako winced. That's not going to be pleasant. At least you will have plenty of stories to tell Yoshino-san, and Kiba will never let you live any of it down. Not helping, Sasuke. Well, it's now or never, he thought, his hand resting on the door. Sasuke took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and pushed open the door. When he opened his eyes, his shoulders tight as though he was prepared to come face to face with a ghost, he was met with the sight of a warehouse filled to the rafters with the material possessions of his dead kin stacked up in boxes in 8 rows 20 meters long, 5 meters wide, and 3 meters tall. Sasuke sighed, and now I get to look through it all, he murmured. Sasuke hesitated before catching himself and punched a wall. I have 5 hours before I have to meet Keiko. I have to get started now, regardless of how much I don't want to find whatever it is I don't want to find. He berated himself before climbing up the first stack of pine wood crates and beginning to methodically pry open each crate with a kunai, rifle through its contents, and pound the crate back shut in disappointment. Why the devil did the third decide to keep so much of this damn clothing? If it was mom's or dad's, I might be grateful that he kept it, but all I'm finding is box after box of fucking t-shirts. With every box of unneeded clothing piled next to the wall by the door, he moved on to the next set of boxes. Finally, here's what I'm looking for. Sasuke cheered as he opened a box to find a stack of Uchiha military police soft body armor vests. Checking the tags, Sasuke grimaced. Too large. The next 3 boxes contained the same result, and his search continued. It seemed that every last item bearing the Uchiha crest was stored in that warehouse, from a crate containing nothing but bedsheets to a crate containing a fancy-looking set of teacups that had probably been used exclusively for tea ceremonies. Growing more frustrated by the minute, he checked the time. 3 more hours. I'm not even done with the first row yet. I've got to find a way to speed this up. Wait a minute. Sasuke straightened. Swiftly molding his chakra in the way he'd copied off of Naruto, he formed a hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Sasuke turned to his clone and gestured off to the next row. Get searching, we don't have all day. The clone nodded and clambered on to the next row. Sasuke stretched and continued. The next hour passed with mind-numbing repetitive boredom as he and his clones searched through box after box of Uchiha emblazoned material in their search to find one single vest that actually fit. Come on, I know I had cousins who joined the force when they were 13, and vests were part of the uniform. Where are they? Sasuke cursed as he slammed the lid shut on a box containing a stack of expensive-looking kimonos. Hey boss. His clone choked out. You need to come see this. Sasuke whipped around. You found them. The clone shook his head furiously as he clutched the rim of the open box. You need to come see this. I'll take over for you where you're at. The shadow clone dragged his sleeve across his eyes and climbed down. If it's his, I don't want to see it. Sasuke snapped to the chakra construct as he approached. Don't you think we know that? I'm you idiot. I would have dragged it outside and burned it if it had been. The shadow clone growled as it opened a box to find it full of broken down bed frames. Sasuke frowned and climbed up the second stack of crates, frustrated by the time his search was taking and nervous about whatever had so visibly upset his clone. When he arrived, he peered into the crate to find a darkly stained wooden chest just over a meter long and flinched as though struck. Boldly painted in scarlet onto the lid in katakana was a message. Property of Mikoto Uchiha. Keep the fuck out. Sasuke swallowed as he tried to fight back tears, gripping the wood of the surrounding crate so fiercely that the pine splintered under his grasp. Fighting to get a hold of himself, he wiped his eyes on his sleeve and made an impulse decision. Hauling the chest out of the crate with great effort, he then called his clone over and together they bore it down to the floor. Thankfully, the clone had managed to finally find what Sasuke was looking for. Noting the seal locking the chest, Sasuke swiftly sealed the vests into one of the scrolls in his pack, having adopted Shikako's packing with storage seals method long before. Then he addressed his shadow clone. Come on, there's only one person I know who can get me into this thing, and I'm eating with her family this evening. The best of us must sometimes eat our words. Albus Dumbledore. You must be joking. Why? Because I do not believe that a minor village's leadership could possibly be that stupid. Shino Aburame argued from his seat beside Hinata. He is not joking, as Shino-kun. Kusa would have taken Shikako-chan if she did not place that seal. Hinata assured. And Kusa will just get away with it. Kiba growled angrily, leaning on the grill. I'm tired of people messing with my pack and coming out even at best. I am aware, but the Godane cannot do anything overly aggressive against Kusa. Why? Because then IWA will take up arms and Kuma will leap at the chance as well, and that will be the start of the Fourth Great War. Shino countered, pulling a small book and pencil out of his jacket and flipping to his last place in it. Kiba looked at him, rolled his eyes, and grimaced. Well fuck, that puts an end to me and Sasuke's plan. I hadn't even considered that. Hinata looked up in confusion. What? If I had a chance where it didn't affect the mission and me or Sasuke ran across a Kusanin, we were going to kill them, Kiba explained. Shino froze and slowly looked up to meet Kiba's gaze. Kiba, that was the most monumentally idiotic thing I have ever heard out of your mouth. Well, I realize that now, don't I? Kiba retorted, walking over and peering over Shino's shoulder. The Inuzuka blinked a few times and shook his head before checking to make sure he was actually seeing what he thought he was seeing. That's for your little sister, isn't it? It is. Kiba gestured at the book. Do you mind if I make an observation? Shino placed his pencil down and looked up at Kiba exaggeratedly. Go on. Why? Because I am dying to know what constructive criticism you could make. Well, for one, Kiba noted, gesturing at the horrifying, demonic-looking, eldritch monster-like creature towering over a diminutive human in the foreground. Children's books aren't supposed to scare the living shit out of the children. Shino sighed. Right now I am at the point where the fourth Hokage, our hero, is about to slay the mountain demon and rescue Konoha from certain destruction. So you're creatively retelling history then? Yes. Why? Because my sister thinks I am much better at telling it than the academy teachers. And now that I am a Chunin, I will not always be around to teach it to her in such a way that she can pass the tests. I've got to admit, if that's the way they taught in the academy, me and Naruto would have had better scores. We must try not to sink beneath our anguish, Harry, but battle on. Albus Dumbledore. His mother's trunk turned out to not be nearly as important as some other things in Sasuke's life. Like the spectacular blow-up that occurred that night at the Nara house. He was, at that point, very glad he had made the last-minute decision to not bring that over. The last thing he wanted was to bring more emotional upheaval anywhere near Shikako without being able to help her sort her own out first. Okay, that was only most of it. While Sasuke's worry about Shikako dominated his mind for the rest of that night, and the next morning, he would grudgingly admit to putting off opening his mom's things. He had the itching feeling that when he opened it he would end up finding things that would reduce him to gross, snotty, sobbing. He was not looking forward to it. Then Shikako threw him another loop. Of course she did. Special jounin? He said again dumbly over dinner at his apartment. How do things like this always happen to Team 7? Honestly, that was just a bonus. She pointed out, poking at her rice, chicken and stir-fried green tomatoes. I'm just glad I was able to escape the clutches of R&D once and for all. Naruto is going to flip when he comes back and finds out that Shikako Nichin became a special jounin while he was gone. Sasuke sighed, shaking his head. Shikako grinned and reached out to pat his cheek. Don't sell yourself short, we've got 3 years. You'll make full jounin as well. She took a bite of the rice and tomatoes. Also, Nei-chan? I'm honored. Not mine, Naruto's. Sasuke pointed at her with his chopsticks. Whatever warm and jumpy feelings he was starting to experience in his stomach whenever she laughed at something he said or whenever she hugged him, they were not of the sibling kind. He still hadn't really got over her leaning against him after her fight with Gaara. Not that he knew exactly what they were, nor was he particularly eager to figure them out just yet. He had an idea they'd throw him for another emotional loop. He was still kind of dizzy from the last one he'd been thrown. You'll have to settle for being the best friend I could ever possibly have from me. Same response. Thank you. Shikako pointed back at the soft body armor vests with the blue shuriken and Uchiha crest on the back. Find anything else interesting when you found those? Well, damn it, so much for not opening that up yet. Sasuke nodded. Yeah, I found a trunk that belonged to my mom. Shikako's eyes shot up to meet his. You okay? I'm fine, I haven't opened it yet. Sasuke answered, placing a piece of tomato in his mouth. Do you want me there when you do? She offered. Well, you'll have to be. It's locked with a seal that's beyond me, and you're the only one who can get it open that I don't mind touching it. Sasuke answered blandly. Besides, it's not a priority at the moment. He got up and placed his empty dishes in the sink. Shikako was taken aback. What is that supposed to mean? It's your mom's stuff. Why isn't it a priority? Well, this could go horribly, as it had last night, mostly Shikamaru's fault in his humble opinion, or it could go relatively well. Probably all a matter of not being a career-murdering jackass, or at least not acting like one. Because you are occupying that position, Sasuke answered, walking around to the opposite side of the small table and sitting beside her. This thing with him targeting Naruto and Orochimaru is really getting to you, isn't it? Shikamaru doesn't get it, but it's only going to get worse before it gets better, way worse, and as much as he might want to, you can't escape it by staying out of the way. You're one of the few our age who actually gets it and is preparing for it. There's no avoiding it. Only choice we have is to get good enough to kill them before they get us. They're S-class, and we only have 3 years to get good enough before Naruto comes back and they come looking, and you think that no one seems to realize it but you, and you're scared. You don't want to lose anyone. Shikako was staring at him, and rigid as a board. I'm not going to suggest that you stop. I'm on your side, I understand what you're doing and why. But you're my best friend, you're the best friend I'll ever have, Sasuke pleaded, voice choking up a little bit, and damn it, he hadn't meant to get like this. And I want you to be okay before any of my stuff gets taken care of, because that's what you've done for me, so if you ever want to talk about it. And then she was hugging him, and he was busy pushing that currently distracting jumpy feeling to the back of his mind again because he needed to make his best friend the priority. Thanks, Shikako murmured. I needed to hear that. Shika doesn't get that. No problem, Sasuke replied, hugging her back. That's what best friends do, right? She squeezed a little tighter before letting go and standing up. She wiped her eyes and looked out the window. I probably need to go home now, she announced, throwing her jacket and vest on. But we are getting that box opened soon. You help me, I help you. She poked him in the chest when he got up to follow her to the door. Sasuke nodded and opened the door. Yeah, we'll deal with all this together, right? She agreed and they hugged again, and Sasuke watched her leave. Her back just a touch straighter than when she'd arrived, and as Sasuke closed the door and filled the sink with water and soap, he couldn't help but think hopefully that maybe he improved things a little for her. He might still be coming to rip away everything he had and Orochimaru might still be looking to possess him, but maybe Shikako was being crushed under all the weight she felt because of it just a little bit less. And if there was one thing Sasuke understood, it's that you deal with your fear and despair in small little increments, one day at a time, because if you face it all at once, all it does is send you right back into an endless black pit. It was a week or two before Shikako and Sasuke had any time to pop Mikoto's trunk open. Between training with Kakashi, with the Censor Squad, Shikako's posting with the Intelligence Department, and Sasuke's continued posting with Border Patrol, they were both being kept extremely busy. Hey! Sasuke greeted as he opened the door a little bit wider so Shikako could enter. Where'd you get all that? He asked, glancing at the numerous books in her arms. I wrote them, it's everything I have on sealing. She explained somewhat proudly. Jiraiya even proofread this one. She laid them out on the kitchen table and tapped one that looked like it had colored sticky notes sticking out of it. Sasuke frowned in confusion. When did that happen? He asked, walking into his bedroom and dragging the wooden box out into the kitchen. You were learning Chidori with Kakashi-sensei, she replied as she helped him lift it onto a chair. Sasuke nodded and Shikako got to work studying the seal locking the trunk. Tea? He offered. Please. Shikako confirmed, flipping through the notebook and comparing the lock seal to various examples. Well, whoever did this used Uzumaki-style sealing. Sasuke looked back at her, eyebrow raised. Wait, what? He placed a full pot on the stove and turned it to the appropriate setting. Come here. She pointed to a picture of a seal in the notebook. That is literally a textbook example of a Uzumaki-style spiral seal. Therefore being extremely strong, stable, and rare, primarily due to the Uzumaki clan having been destroyed and the survivors scattered and hunted during the Second Great Shinobi War. We took in most of them because they were our allies during the First and Second Wars. And now there's only Naruto. Do you think he knows? Sasuke finished. Probably not. I mean, it's not exactly classified information. Any book on the First and Second Wars or on the Senju clan is going to have information on it. Naruto just isn't the type to read history books on his spare time. Anyway, do you see the similarity between the one on your mom's and the one in here? Yeah. Uzumaki spiral sealing. So my mom knew one and they were close enough for them to draw her a lock seal. Because she wasn't a seal master. He concluded. She studied it for a few more minutes. Where's the chakra sink? This has to be powered by something. No. You're kidding, no way. That's too easy. She muttered in awe before simply ripping it off. That was a dummy seal, it didn't take chakra from anywhere. It was just a massive, dangerous-looking bluff. She sighed and stuck the seal into her notebook. And here I was, trying not to trip a minefield like an amateur. Sasuke carefully decided not to mention how glad he was that it wasn't a mine considering how close the two were versus how casually Shikako ripped it off. Well, you ready for this? Shikako asked, catching his attention carefully and bringing it back to the present. You okay? He shook himself like a dog ridding itself of water. Only one way to find out, right? Sasuke reached out and shoved the lid up and back, fast enough to prevent himself from hesitating. Close to half of the box was filled to the top with a collection of notebooks small enough to fit into a pocket. The other side housed a large set of seemingly random but carefully stacked items. So where do you want to start? Shikako asked, looking at him expectantly, having stacked up her own notebooks and placed them to the side. I think Sasuke started cautiously before he was interrupted by the timer beeping its announcement that the tea was done. Sasuke started at the sound and got up to pour it. I think we should just lay everything out and figure out what everything is. We can start to go through it after that in more detail. She nodded and began to methodically lay out the contents of the trunk on the table. Sasuke handed her one of the cups and started flipping through the meticulously stacked notebooks. We can leave these in here, he commented. They're all journals, I'll start reading them later tonight. She certainly seems to have been the nostalgic type, or at the very least she liked keeping good records, Shikako confirmed, holding up a heavy notebook and a collection of envelopes. Photo album, and these letters are dated from a year before the Third Shinobi War. Shikako opened one carefully and began to read, her eyes darting along the page. When she flipped to the second page of the letter, she got about a third of the way down before her eyes widened like saucers. Sasuke, I don't think you should read these, she advised carefully, struggling to keep her voice even. Why? What are they about? He asked apprehensively as he set aside an additional set of notebooks that he determined to be notes on advanced genjutsu. Well, Shikako said, grinning mischievously as she fought to keep herself from giggling and not succeeding completely, apparently your mom had a boyfriend before your dad. She explained, eyes glued to the page. Yeah, for the sake of your own sanity, don't read these. Sasuke went from being apprehensive, to confused, to outright horror in less than 3 seconds as it dawned on him, and he realized both what was in the contents of the letters and that sometimes perhaps ignorance truly was bliss. If it helps, Shikako gasped, fighting for air as she succumbed to the giggling and continued reading. She was an excellent writer. Naturally, that didn't reassure Sasuke in the least. That doesn't help at all, he protested, looking as though he was going to be sick. And because Shikako gained nothing but enjoyment out of tormenting him, or so he thought by this point as he wallowed in horror, she simply had to make it even worse. Seriously, Sasuke, can I borrow these for a while? She cackled madly, moving on to the next page with glee. It took him a second for that to register. Why? He asked, perplexed. Then the memory of what he had read out of stupefying boredom during his enforced isolation after Orochimaru's first attempt at his body came back to him, and he blushed wildly. Shikako, he exclaimed, his face red as a tomato as he was assaulted by an extremely unwanted image and another set of that feeling in his stomach that made him feel like he had swallowed one of Jiraiya's toads. Speaking of whom, what the hell, Keiko? What the fuck did that pervy sage do to your head? He yelled. Shikako fought down the laughter, which was replaced by the hiccups. She carefully folded and put the letter back into the envelope before exchanging it with the teacup as she shook with mirth. There, Sasuke, she said, patting him on the shoulder. It's okay, we'll keep you safe from the smut. I want enough alcohol to drown myself. He complained miserably as he slumped down and repeatedly banged his head against the top of the table. I hope you're proud of yourself, Keiko. There's not enough soap in the world to clean that out of my ears. He moaned piteously, said ears red like the fan on the back of his shirt. Shikako sighed, her hiccups finally under control. On that pleasant note, let's move on, she suggested, removing a Konohagaku forehead plate attached to a maroon bandana from the trunk. Can we please? Sasuke begged, hauling himself out of his own little pit of despair and unwanted information to join her in continuing to sort out his mother's things. He removed a set of horror novels, apparently autographed by the author, before removing a kimono and a scroll to reveal a long sleeve made of linen, whose contents stretched along the back of the meter-long trunk. Hey Sasuke? Shikako asked, opening the photo album. Does he look familiar to you? She pointed to a silver-haired man towering benignly over a squad of genin containing an amused boy with earrings and a bow slung on his back, an exasperated-looking dark-haired girl, and a girl with striking red hair who was flashing the victory sign at the camera and beaming like she just had the world handed to her. He looks like Kakashi, Sasuke commented as he removed the sleeve from the trunk. She nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought. She agreed distractedly. Is that a sword sleeve? She asked, looking at what was in her friend's hands. Did she practice kenjutsu? Not that I know of, and she taught me almost everything I knew. Sasuke paused. Him and Dad were usually busy with work a lot. So Mom taught me my Uchiha Taijutsu forms and shuriken techniques as well as a lot of other stuff. He peeled the cloth down over the riveted maple handle scales and tsuba of the katana and then the wakizashi before removing them from the bag entirely, which he laid carefully on the table along with the shorter of the two swords before unsheathing the longer. I guess she did. He pointed at the well-oiled but scratched flat and spine of the blade. It certainly didn't get this from ceremonial use, and it's sharp as hell. He confirmed, lightly testing the edge with the top of his fingernail. Isn't one of the special jounin you patrol with known for kenjutsu? Shikako asked, curiously, flipping through the photo album. Sasuke nodded. Gecko hate. He confirmed, placing the katana on the table so he could do a similar examination on the wakizashi. You think I should ask him to teach me how to use these? Well, I wouldn't use those exact ones. They're family heirlooms at this point, and it'd suck if they broke on a mission. But I certainly am. Lessons on how to use the Raijin no Ken are sorta long overdue. You could probably get a copy of them made, though. I'm sure Tenten knows someone who could do it. Who's this? She asked, pointing to a picture of Mikoto, now in her mid-teens and a 7-year-old in a dark blue jacket edged with orange. Sasuke barely gave the picture a glance. Oh, that's Obito, he was Mom's favorite cousin. Died during the Third War trying to blow up a bridge in Kusa or something. Sasuke put the swords back in the sleeve and went to sit by Shikako. They spent a few minutes looking over the photo album before Shikako spoke up again. There's 9 of them, she said quietly, leaning into Sasuke and rocking her head back on his shoulder to study the ceiling. 9 of who? Sasuke asked, looking at another picture of the red-headed girl, the Kakashi lookalike and his mother, who was leaning against the boy with the bow and earrings. They looked about 16. The Akatsuki? The group Itachi and Kisame belonged to. She could feel Sasuke go rigid as a 2x4. There's 9 of them. All are S-class. All are just as insane or more so. Orochimaru used to be a member, that's how Jiraiya-sama found out about them. She continued, the words falling out of her mouth like water out of a spring. Sasori of the Red Sand used to be his partner, and there was another scene hanging out at bounty offices. I told Fu from Taki, and Gaara knows too. She tilted her head to look at him. Gaara gave me Sasori's folder. I gave it to Tsunade-sama, don't tell anyone though. Sasuke's expression was a mix of frozen rage and horror. 9 of them? He stated in shock before shaking his head. Well, now I know why you're so worried. We have to kill 9 S-class psychopaths. And that's not even counting Orochimaru. Shikako nodded and rocked her head back its former position on his shoulder. Yeah. She continued to study the subtle pattern on the ceiling formed by the plaster. Yeah. She breathed quietly as Sasuke tightened his arm around her shoulders, both caught up in imagining the nightmare they'd be walking face first into 3 years later. We'll get through it, Sasuke said eventually. We're the lucky 7s. He turned a page in the album. It was just before 8 o'clock on a Thursday night when Sasuke came back from a particularly late patrol and found that he both had nothing to occupy himself, and that his mind was still far too busy to go to sleep. So, quickly making up his mind and stomach, as he had yet to eat, he picked up food from a nearby Akimichi-owned restaurant and made his way over to the Hokage Tower, and from there, the intelligence wing. Is Nara Shikako in? Sasuke asked as he opened the door to an intake office, holding up the boxes of food and showing them to the Chunin at the desk responsible for guarding the actual door to the intelligence department just beside the desk. Yeah, she's in. Let me figure out where, though. I think they changed her post this week. Just sign the visitor book over there. I'm Arita Daichi. The Chunin confirmed, dragging a file with Shikako's name on it out of a drawer and flicking it open. She's in the aviary right now. I hope for your sake that's not barbecue. Those damn birds beg like dogs and thieve like rats, he said with a wry grin as he got up from the desk. Come on, you have to have an escort behind that door. I'll take you back. He opened the door and held it open for Sasuke to follow. You know, we don't get visitors like this often, especially not this late. You ever thought about where you're going to do your 3-month stint? The Chunin asked as he led Sasuke down a set of halls. I'm grounded in the village right now. Until I'm not, I've been assigned to patrol with the special Jounin. Sasuke answered in an annoyed tone. The Chunin responded with a confused look, and Sasuke beat him to the punch. Orochimaru wants to possess my body for my Sharingan, so until otherwise told, I can't leave the village without someone of special Jounin rank or above. He elaborated in a disgusted tone. Arita blanched visibly. Well, it's a good thing you came up now instead of later. We usually break for dinner about this time anyway. So we'll check the break room first before heading up to the aviary, he said, clearly trying to steer the conversation toward a less unsavory topic. The Chunin opened a door and stuck his head in before closing the door. Not in there, up to the aviary then, he said, gesturing onwards. When they found her, Shikako had a hawk twice the size of her head perched on her forearm that she was feeding scraps of meat under the supervision of a man in a Chunin vest and dark sunglasses. Shikako, you have a visitor, Arita announced, stepping out of the way so Sasuke could enter. The hawk immediately switched its attention to the newcomer and the boxes in his arms as though it was precision-guided, and only Shikako waving another chunk of meat in front of its head distracted it long enough for her to get it back into its kennel. Mind if I pass him on? The Chunin asked. The man with the sunglasses nodded. Go ahead. She'll make sure he won't go anywhere he shouldn't. Hold that door open. He strode over to the open door. I'm going down for dinner. Don't give the birds anything. Cammy knows they're spoiled enough already. One of the raptors squawked as though to protest. Oh, shut up. He shot back before descending the stairs. Sasuke held out one of the boxes. Looks like you're having fun. Shikako accepted the box and led him over to the broad shelf in the opening for the hawks to leave the aviary. We were doing fine before you came in and stole their hearts, she said, lightly teasing as she gestured at the 20-some raptors who seemed to be attempting to be boring holes in him with the intensity of their big golden eyes. Shikako hopped up to sit on the ledge. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Oh, just wonderful, he responded, returning the bird's stares as he opened his boxed eel donburi with tomatoes and cracked apart the disposable chopsticks. The hawks hunched their shoulders and opened their beaks slightly as the smell of the meat hit their senses. Now you're just taunting them, Sasuke, Shikako scolded, tapping his shoulder with the back of her hand. Then they'll take it out on me when I get them out again. Come on, what have you been up to? Kakashi said you were working on something. He gave the birds one final glare before answering. Yeah, I got an idea for the Chidori from Yoraiji no Ken. He gestured broadly with his hands. I want to figure out a way to increase the range somehow, extend the blade or something. Shikako seemed to think for a moment before replying as she opened her Gyudin. Well, it's just an idea, but you could make some sort of high-powered electrical current out of it. It might be easier, just to get used to manipulating the shape of it, right? Or you could try channeling it up your sword. That chakra saber is supposed to be receptive to channeling chakra down the blade. Sasuke considered this for a moment before replying thoughtfully. Chidori Nagashi, that could work. I'll ask Kakashi about it. Also, speaking of swords, I talked to Tenten about getting copies of Mom's made. So she referred me to a guy she knew, and he had an idea to fix that issue of the saber being so fragile and just combine the chakra conductive metal in the saber into the copy of Mom's sword. He explained, taking a bite. Shikako looked surprised. Kakashi didn't mind? Sasuke shrugged. He said if it suited me better, I should go for it. He shifted before asking, enough about me though, what have you been doing up here? Shikako seemed to tense up over her food before relaxing. Ibiki asked me to join TNI. She admitted almost guiltily. I refused though. Sasuke frowned. Did he say why? You aren't exactly known for interrogation. Shikako rubbed her hands over her face and began to tell him of a mission in the Land of Stone and combining the shadow paralysis ninjutsu with killing intent to make a not-so-innocent civvy shit his pants in fear and spill his darkest secrets. And now I'm in the IWA bingo book as an interrogation specialist, and that's how Ibiki found out. Well, at least you found out something new. Did I make a bingo book? Sasuke asked hopefully. Shikako gave a little grin in amusement. Yeah, you're wanted in Kumo's and Iwa's, and you already know about Iwa's bunker. So you're really liking it here? Shikako shrugged. Office politics suck, and it's really busy, but it's a different kind of busy than what we used to do. She gestured with her chopsticks in her search for a word that fit. Routine, but not in a bad way. It's not as exciting, but I think it's kind of making me slow down. Which is a good thing right now, I guess? She said, somewhat conflicted. I'm definitely not staying here forever, obviously, but for 3 months, I think I'll be better off in the long run. I'm being slowed down in training just enough, it seems, for me to still make some progress on the things I want to, but still not be going so fast that I get burned out. She paused and took a bite. I don't necessarily like it, but I like the pace it's forcing me to, if that makes any sense. She finished thoughtfully. You. Being stuck in the village like this sucks, but I'm getting a lot done with training. Kurenai-sensei is helping me go over Mom's genjutsu notes. Hate is furthering my kenjutsu from where Kakashi left off. I was able to copy a few techniques from the Kusa Chunin exams, and I'm working on getting a hold of them. I guess it's the same, I'm getting a lot done, I just wish I was out of the village more. Aoba says that next week we might do some field work. I'll see if I can get you able to tag along. Shikako offered. No promises, but dash. Shikako spread her hands apologetically. Thanks, that would be great. They finished eating and threw away the garbage. I know you said to not tell anyone, but do you mind if I tell Kiba about the whole picture with Akatsuki? The kidnapping attempt in Kusa was the last straw for him, and he's been getting more and more pissed about his people getting targeted by S-class dicks since the entire thing with Orochimaru's freak show. He's more livid than I've ever seen him. Shikako looked surprised. How much time do you spend with Team 8? Sasuke rubbed the back of his neck. Well, I got the full earful on the way back from Kusa, but yeah, I've been spending a good bit of time with them. As I said, Kurenai is helping me with my genjutsu, so in payment I've been helping Kiba learn a few ninjutsu. Besides, don't we need all the help we can get? 9 rookies, 9 Akatsuki. Not including Guy's team? Shikako questioned, a little grin beginning to form. The other Hyuga's a jackass. Sasuke responded, annoyed. Shikako rolled her eyes. I meant to not tell anyone about the Sasori file, she said after taking a moment to carefully scan the area for any chakra sensors. Akatsuki's fair game if you think the others would want to know, though I don't think Tsunade would approve. We're not doing anything reckless. Tsunade doesn't have a good reason to tell us to shove off. Not when all we're doing is training to be ready for them, Sasuke replied. Tsunade looked back at the both of them with a sincerely unimpressed expression. Well, at least you're learning how to do this within the rules, she said, looking directly at Shikako, who shifted nervously in response. Fuck it, go ahead. But do your best to make me not regret it. Sasuke bowed slightly in an extremely rare display of high respect. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. The Hokage waved her hand in a clear show of dismissal. You're welcome. Now get out of my office, to both of you, before I change my mind. Well, that went well, Aoba commented as they closed the office door behind them. We'll meet at the gates in 30. We shouldn't be out more than a week at most. Oh, and bring some civvy clothes in your pack as well, nothing that will tip our people off, no clan or leaf symbols. What is the mission objective? Shikako asked as they took the jump to the trees. The genin responsible for keeping discreet tabs in the town of Ranwara has requested a team to investigate her teammate's disappearance after she stated that she was going to scope out the goings-on of an even smaller village further northeast. The issue is that Ranwara is close to our border with the land of hot springs, the oceanic side specifically, and as the former home of a now non-functional shinobi village, it is crawling with missing mean of skill levels from high-range genin to jonin. They're mostly harmless and no better than to piss a village like us off, but they are looking work and places to put down roots, and it wouldn't be too surprising if one got hired to kill off a nosy kid for a wannabe crime boss that just happened to be our contact there. Aoba explained, adjusting his glasses. Of course, it also wouldn't be surprising if it was something completely mundane either, like a bout of food poisoning. Pufferfish is a commonly eaten food by the coastline, and a natural phenomenon known as red tide that sometimes occurs up and down the coastline in lightning country can turn the surrounding ocean for a mile or two to poison for a few days afterward. Sometimes the residue can make its way down a little farther, and it can show in the shellfish that end up in fishermen's nets. Which is why we're sending a team that wouldn't qualify as overkill, but could still take care of business should a violent response be appropriate. Our contact is undercover? Sasuke asked. Why? Because it's easier. Nobody is looking for a fisherman's kid. But on the border of a hidden village, and with lightning country only 10 miles from the town, everyone suspicious has their eyes out for a shinobi. It's better to have our early warning system be discreet, and it also allows for a better way of gathering information because no one is watching out for a shinobi. So when we get a mile or two from the place, we'll be changing into civvies and adopting a cover story. We'll be cousins going to Utakure to look for work. Do you two know how to cook? Shikako nodded. I do. Sasuke? I think I know enough to get by, and I can always copy someone's skills if I need anything else. Good, then that's what we'll do for a living. Aoba glanced back at the wakizashi attached vertically to the back of Sasuke's chunin vest. Civvies your age don't carry swords though, even if they are the short version, so I hope you have a way to hide that. You probably won't use it anyway. I'm not saying you shouldn't have brought it, because we might well be walking into some shit, but if we're not, it's important that we not give ourselves away. Shikako Nara is my teammate. I know how to make a storage seal. Sasuke reminded, quirking up the corner of his mouth and touching the hilt of the shorter of his mother's swords that protruded over his shoulder. Unfortunately, the pair of swords he had commissioned weren't ready yet, as the smith making them wanted to implement a new technique that supposedly would vastly improve the finished blade and in consequence, was being extra careful, on account of the chakra-conductive metal he was taking from Kakashi's chakra saber. So he had opted to bring the wakizashi along instead of the katana, on account of not expecting combat to be a focus of the mission, and therefore, not worth the extra weight of the longer weapon. Aoba nodded. All right then. Aoba, what is this listed as? Shikako asked. Don't get me wrong, we can handle it, but usually, missions for us aren't this straightforward about the risk. They usually start off as an average C rank and go downhill fast from there. The Lucky Seven's Curse? Yeah, I've heard of it. Aoba confirmed. Intelligence missions are usually low-risk B rank and up. C rank work is office work and report carrying, which is done by the Hawks. Aoba adjusted his glasses. If the situation requires personnel beyond a Genin core outpost, the situation is potentially dangerous or sensitive enough that it's above a Genin or low Chunin skill level, regardless of whether the mission is an infiltration or intel seizure or anything else. This is way too quiet. Sasuke commented warily as they drew within sight of the coast town. He wasn't comfortable with any of this if he was honest with himself. He felt altogether too vulnerable with only one kunai hidden in the ankle of his sandal and the collarless shirt bearing his neck and collarbone to the world. To add to it, the deafening silence as they grew within 100 meters to the village was reminding him of another day and thriving town settled by silence, and holy shit, we need to get out of here, why can't I fucking move? The stench of gallons of spilled blood and bodies only a few hours old hit them in the gut like a sucker punch. Sasuke fell to his knees and wretched. It smells exactly the same. Shikako, looking as though she as well was fighting back the urge to sacrifice the contents of her stomach to the earth, helped to haul him to his feet. Thank you? He breathed. She nodded in return. We need to get back into the woods and gear up again, Aoba said, disturbed but not devastated. Then we go in. And normally, Sasuke in no way could ever reasonably be called a coward, but as Shikako placed him behind a tree so he could change, the only thing going through his head was holy fuck, what do you mean go and we need to get the fuck out? Then Shikako shook his shoulder gently, and his eyes snapped up to meet hers and the vision of his brother standing over the remains of scores of men, women, and children vanished. You've got to snap out of it, Sasuke. It'll be alright. We've been through worse. He nodded, thinking of how Orochimaru's killing intent had brought him to his knees, yet Shikako had fought as though possessed. I have to do better, he thought, suddenly furious at himself. She shouldn't have to fight for me all the time because I can't break my own fear. She deserves a better teammate than that. A teammate that doesn't drag her down. He shook himself like a dog shaking off water. Thanks, Shikako, I'm better now. He choked out, giving her a half-hearted grin. You should go gear up if Aoba's moving us in soon. Are you sure you're alright? She asked, her hand warm on the back of his neck. He steeled himself. Yeah, I'll be fine. She nodded and turned to leave. Okay. She took a few steps and turned back. We don't have the time now, but if you want, we'll talk about this when we get back. Sasuke nodded, and Shikako left so he could change. Yanking the top of his bag open, he quickly put his shinobi gear back on and wiped his mouth with the bleached white civvy shirt before moving to rejoin Aoba. The special jounin gave him a glance over. You alright? I'm fine now, Sasuke stated firmly, as much to convince himself as his superior. Good, I've already sent a crow to inform Tsunade-sama of the situation. Once Shikako gets back, we will enter the village as stealthily as possible to determine the cause of why we can smell human blood and bodies so far out. If there are still people there, we will attempt to detain or delay them. Backup should be sent after us and will most likely arrive within a few hours. I'm ready, Shikako stated as she approached, Raijin no Ken in hand. No need to wait then, let's get after it, he said, visibly steeling himself as they took the jump back into the trees and made their way towards the smell of death. As they landed on the roof of the first of 60 or 70 buildings, they were treated to the predictable but still bone-chilling sight of the corpses of over 100 people massacred in the streets, some clutching farm tools or lying half and half out of doorways. Sasuke froze as the memories began to intrude on him again at the sight before he clamped down on them and shoved them to the back of his mind. From now on, Shikako will never have to take the fall because I am afraid. Summoning style, 1,000 scattering crows, Aoba announced, biting his thumb and planting it into the thatched roof of a house, releasing a murder of crows into the air. They'll find who did this, he stated, even as the birds began to circle a short ways away over the center of Ranwara, over a prone, muttering, dark-haired person drenched in blood laying in the center of an upside-down equilateral triangle inside a circle, clutching a bloody spear in one hand. Omake 1, Kiba's first mission briefing as a mission leader. Alright. As everyone knows, this will be the first mission I lead as a jounin, Kiba announced, unrolling the map of a large town out on a cork board and tacking the corners. This town is known to have several of Orochimaru's informants living here. Our task is to capture all of them for Ibiki's department to have some fun with. When we get to location, me and Naruto will be conducting a security sweep under Henges. Kiba turned around to face the other 8 occupants of the room with a savage grin on his face that could best be described as shit-eating. Also, since we will be using radios, from here on out we will be using codenames for those radios. Oh, this is not going to be good, not with that grin, Shino thought with growing apprehension from his seat beside Hinata. You may address me as Dog 1. Akamaru is good dog. From there he began to walk around the table, announcing his friends' codenames as he passed them. Ino is been there, done that. Ino's jaw dropped. Hey Dash. Kiba continued anyway. Sakura, as medic for this mission, is currently doing that. Sakura, grinning wildly, raised her open hand to give Kiba a high five, which he accepted enthusiastically. Choji gets to keep his name, because he gave me chips yesterday. Choji looked like he had just dodged a bullet by the narrowest of margins. Shikamaru is insufferable smartass. Shikamaru's bored expression became an annoyed glare. His opinion wasn't improved by the next announcement. Shikako is, it happened once in a dream. Shikako, struggling not to laugh, placed her hands on Shikamaru and Sasuke, who looked positively murderous, to hold them in their seats. And only ever in your dreams, Kiba. Sasuke is complete jackass. Sasuke continued to fix Kiba with a look that could have frozen molten metal. Naruto's amusement at Sasuke's codename was killed quickly by his own. Naruto is, if I had to pick a man. Oh, thank the show dame, I thought that was going to be me. Shino slumped in his chair in relief. Hinata is, can't get it out of her mouth. And Shino, Kiba paused, is dog 2 foot. Thank you so much. The fanatic is incorruptible. If he kills for an idea, he can just as well get himself killed for one. In either case, tyrant or martyr, he is a monster. Emil M. Choran. He's still in town, Aoba commented, perplexed at the sight of his crows circling the center of the village. Looting? Sasuke suggested cautiously, still trying to not pay too much attention to the details of the massacre. Like how that old man's face was turned the entirely wrong way. Note to self, trying to ignore something that way doesn't work. They've been dead for over an hour, and let me say from wartime experience, it doesn't take that long to loot this many bodies. Aoba returned in a dry tone that said firmly and calmly, and no, you are not getting a war story about it. We approached with caution. Hopefully the perpetrator is already dead, dying, or walking wounded. If not, we engage with the intent to capture and disable. We want to know who this sick fuck is," he ordered, already moving to the roof of the next house. Sasuke glanced at Shikako before following suit, wrapping an explosive note around the handle of a kunai as they made their way to the center of the village, making sure to pay attention to their surroundings so that they would not be ambushed. In the center of the village lay a dark-haired man in the center of an upside-down equilateral triangle inside a circle. And he was so caught up in his muttering and occasional barks of laughter that he either didn't notice, or didn't care that Aoba, Shikako, and Sasuke had taken up a position on the roofs of the buildings that immediately surrounded him. "Let go of the spear and surrender immediately," Aoba commanded, twirling a kunai attached by the ring to a length of ninja wire in tight circles by his shoulder. The man sighed, his expression of pure bliss marred for a moment by one of unrivaled irritation. "Lord Jashin, please forgive the sinner as I halt my prayers to your almighty throne of slaughter and devastation that I might glorify you as I pause to correct this collection of godless heathens," he pleaded before slowly sitting up and turning his attention to the shinobi surrounding him. "How fucking dare you interrupt the worship of my glorious lord?" he hissed in rage as he climbed to his feet. "I'm warning you," Aoba stated. "Drop the..." "Shut the fuck up, you atheist!" he screamed, shaking in rage. "I'll just have to worship him another way." Sasuke was already moving to intercept, hurling the kunai as he did, his Sharingan spinning and predicting the exact moment the fanatic whipped his arm out to launch a set of spikes at Aoba. The custom explosive note went off exactly as Shikako had drawn it. Twice as intense, with the standard radius, it destroyed both spikes and kunai, peppering the religious psychopath with bits of hot metal but leaving no significant wounds. "Be careful," Shikako warned as she activated her sword and used it to spit a wide capture pattern of electricity at their opponent. "Some of these bodies don't have obvious wounds. The weapons might be poisoned." "You're gonna wish it was poison, bitch!" the man shrieked, leaping after her. Shikako smirked as she immediately dropped to her knees to duck the spear and snag him in the shadow possession, but was foiled by a sealless replacement, and was forced to quickly backpedal when she found that he had replaced himself with a barrel on the other side of the building to get behind her. She dodged the spearhead by an inch, the smirk immediately dropping from her lips as she stepped back off the roof only for her foot to find nothing but air. "I've got you now, you heathen!" he laughed before quite literally eating crow as Aoba directed his murder into his face. Shikako took the opportunity to leap to safety. "There's no point in shadow capture if he can get out that easily," Sasuke stated, noting the particularly panicked expression on her face. "We go to disabling then," Aoba confirmed. "I don't care if he never walks again." He lit the building on fire with a quickly applied Katan Jutsu. The Jashinist leapt out of the fire screaming obscenities and lashing out with his spear. Sasuke moved to intercept, dodging the point and lashing out with his sword to take his hand off at the wrist. Levering the spear, his opponent caught the blade on the shaft and struck out, and Sasuke's heart with a short comma he pulled out of his belt, only to be foiled by a crow lashing out for his eyes. "Fire release, Phoenix Fire Flower Nails!" Sasuke cried, disengaging himself from his enemy. At point-blank range, the Jashinist was supremely lucky that he was able to substitute himself before any more of the projectiles hit him, the Katan chakra-imbued shuriken cauterizing the wound as they chewed through his left ulna, leaving his arm useless. Unfortunately for Sasuke, his enemy substituted himself with a wheelbarrow just behind and to the side of him, and if not for his excellent peripheral vision and the preternatural reflexes of the Sharingan, he would have been down a kidney, lung, and his heart. As it was, he was brutally smashed off balance by the Jashinist, so out of his mind with fury that he ignored his broken arm in his attempt to bludgeon Sasuke's jaw out of place with it. Immediately leaping back into action, Shikako lashed out with the Raijin no Ken at distance to give the murderer the tasering of his life. Sasuke took the opportunity to scramble out of the way and rejoin his team. "Keep it up. That looks like it's working." "Of course, right when I say that, it doesn't work," Sasuke noted as the figure crumbled into dust. "Earth clone. Summoning, great servant of slaughter," a voice cried out to their left, and they were forced to dodge as a skinless ape with the scattered features of a crocodile, and the size of one of the one-story buildings that made up the town roared and nearly killed all three of them with a snap of its enormous jaws. "Fear the wrath of my lord's servant. And now it only gets worse, way to keep your mouth shut, dumbass." Sasuke scolded himself as he fought down panic. "I hope you've got some bigger crows than that, Aoba." "Shut up and spit fire, Uchiha. Fire release, Dragon Fire Bomb," Aoba yelled, spitting small globs of fire at the monster that exploded like gasoline once they made contact, pissing the thing off more. Sasuke obliged with another round of fire release, Phoenix Fire Flower Nails, which, striking the monster in the bear, uncovered muscle of the chest, truly seemed to enrage it. Grabbing Shikako around the waist, as she was being preoccupied by a scroll she was scribbling furiously all over with a cut thumb, he leapt out of the way and brought them both to safety as it lunged and ripped another building to shreds. I'm never setting foot in a temple again. Just as they landed, Shikako threw the scroll under the monster, using a chakra string to make sure that it unrolled with the scribbled on side facing the thing's belly. Sealing style, the third unforgivable. All violence stopped, and the world seemed to freeze in shock as the Jashinist stood there, staring at them in the first moment of silence they had experienced of him. The monster suddenly, inexplicably gone in a puff of smoke and not left but a scroll in the middle of a village to announce its passing. Oh Lord Shodame. When did she come up with that? Wait, if that's the third, what are the first two? Sasuke thought in half relief, half horror. Then that wonderful moment of silence was broken as the Jashinist screamed in fury and charged again. Shinobi Art, Stone Needles Jutsu. Aoba announced, launching the kunai attached to his ninja wire directly at the enemy's chest, chakra flooding down the wire. The kunai struck the shoulder, the chakra paralyzing the victim, who had used up enough of his chakra that he couldn't fight his way out with a substitution. You fuckers! I'll fucking kill you, you godless dash! The Jashinist slumped over on the ground as Shikako slapped a knockout tag onto his forehead and activated it. If I don't get A rank pay for that, I am going to be so pissed. Aoba commented, dismissing his crows. Kiba, you must surely have something better to do than look over shoulder and watch me draw. Shino commented in a distinctly irritated tone as he sketched a scene detailing an Aburame victory over a Kamizuru set during the Third War. Why? Because last I noticed you were still working through the jutsu Sasuke left you. Kiba shook his head slowly. Nope, worked through the mud wall, clone, and earth walking techniques before he got pulled to do whatever it is Kakashi-sensei wanted him to figure out, and I finished with the 3 basic fire jutsu scrolls he left me 2 days ago. I'll admit to the last one taking me a little longer to nail down, but I finished it. The Kamizuru was getting her wasp hive forcibly chewed out of her body by the Aburame's Kikeichu. Kiba took an experimental sniff, and noted that neither their sensei nor his second sister were in the area yet. Kiba frowned. Kurenai-sensei had promised to finally start teaching them some low-level genjutsu. It wasn't really his style, but he figured that it wouldn't hurt to further expand his growing number of ways he could kick someone's ass. Shy littermate Hinata did say that she had to sit in a cruel Nappapak Hyuga meeting. Akamaru reminded him through their mental link, as he worried a roll of rawhide made from a rabbit pelt. Kiba knelt down to run his fingers over his partner's ears. It's noon though. I would have thought that those sticks in the mud would have finished by now. You should have brought something to chew. Akamaru lectured, always eating. Choji's never bored, he always has something to chew. Lazy Shadow Shikamaru's never bored because he always has his clouds to watch. Buzzing littermate Shino's never bored because he has his markings to make. Yeah, I know. I'm working on it. Akamaru huffed and dropped the rawhide, nudging it over with his paw. Here, throw it. That way you can keep both of us entertained. Kiba laughed and threw the rawhide across the clearing. So, Shino. Akamaru says I need a hobby. Got any ideas? Shino didn't answer. Kiba nudged him in the ribs. Shino, come on. Surely you've got something. You could practice giving other people some peace and quiet for once. Why? I'm sure that would fully occupy your mind. Shino replied. Kiba rolled his eyes. Alright, that's it. I'll bite. What the hell crawled up your ass and died? You've been extra pissy all morning. Shino took a deep breath, let it out slowly. I apologize. He bit out. Why? Because you are right, I have been taking my anger out on the wrong targets because it would not be right or legal to pursue the proper ones. Kiba frowned. What happened? Get ready to throw down, buddy, somebody messed with our pack again. Oh, finally, some proper rabbits to chase. Chiyako was publicly humiliated and attacked, and Mr. Cranberry was grievously injured by their classmates yesterday. She hid in the bushes outside of the academy crying until Shikako found her and helped bring her home. And this is not the first time such things have happened. He seethed. False alarm, we can't beat up academy children, Kiba explained to Akamaru. Why not? Pups need to be put in their place occasionally, Akamaru retorted. He liked Chiyako. And I completely agree, but this is out of our jaws. Don't you think Shino would have gotten back at them if he could? Shino sometimes needs a push. We just can't, as much as I'd like to. Legal human reasons. You're quiet, Shino noted coldly. Sorry, I was trying to talk Akamaru out of teaching the bullies a well-deserved lesson. Is there any way we can help that doesn't involve beating up cruel little academy snots? Kiba offered. Maybe we can get Mr. Cranberry to eat all of the fleas or something. I don't know. She's always welcome at the Inuzuka compound, you know that. Shino nodded, accepting the explanation. Not particularly. And thank you? Kiba waved it off. No problem, you do the same for me. Shino shifted uncomfortably. I do not know if this is an appropriate observation to make considering that it is normally frowned upon to have empathy with one's enemy, but I cannot help but wonder if Orochimaru's experience with the academy was similar to Chiako's. Why? Because Chiako suffers the scorn of her peers like many Aburame before her because society does not look kindly on insects and arachnids, viewing them as signs of filth and decay. Many people's view on serpents is similar, if not worse due to the high number of venomous snakes in this area because of our favorable climate. I wonder if he was frequently bullied as a child because he associated himself with creatures thought of as creepy and dangerous. I have heard that in Kiri, dogs are seen as a public menace, and that D-rank missions are often to kill feral dogs. Akamaru added, trotting up to Kiba and laying the rawhide in his lap. I've heard that too. Kiba pulled Akamaru into his arms. I think I'm lucky that I was born in Konoha and not Kiri, or I would be in the same position. And no, I don't think it can be too wrong to empathize with your enemy, as long as it does not stop you from doing your duty. The only reason Gaara is our ally is because Naruto empathized with him. Shino nodded and put away his notebook and pencil. We should begin warming up for training. Why? Because my Kikaichi can smell Hinata and Kurenai-sensei's approach. Finally, Akamaru wagged his tail. Let me go. I'm going to greet shy littermate Hinata. She always needs cheering up after talking with her cruel Natapak Hyuga. Kiba complied and Akamaru rocketed across the training ground. Taijutsu? He offered, standing up. You need work with that. Shino nodded, taking Kiba's and allowing Kiba to pull him up off the ground. I agree. You are still able to beat me in a taijutsu-only spar easily. That needs to be rectified. Also, Danaher Murphy wrote an awesome little snippet concerning the third unforgivable seal used by Shikako last chapter that can be considered canon in the Arts of War and Life AU, and fits into the corresponding place in the timeline at the top of the chapter, so here is that. Got inspired from CH8 of the Arts of War and Life, where Shikako uses a seal she calls the third unforgivable, which instantly kills a giant summon. And I got to thinking that would work. Seals are the interface, right? Shikako knows death. The severing of the soul from the body, she knows that, bone deep. And writing the blocky gothic lettering of Avada Kedavra in blood if it's imbued with chakra. I feel like there's no reason that shouldn't work just as well as her touch blast. It's a curse, a solemn utterance to inflict harm or punishment on a target. It calls upon a supernatural power, whether chakra or something else. It's something with power. Those words have power, in her mind much more so that just writing killed this. I think, even by DOS rules alone, making Avada Kedavra into a seal would actually work. Because the unforgivables have always been about intent. Anywho, here's a ficlet. Post Shikako successfully using the AK seal, either in the Arts of War and Life scenario, or just in Dio's canon against some kind of giant, terrifying summon. So Sasuke tells me you took out a giant summons with one seal, Ino said teasingly. I'm surprised we didn't hear the explosion all the way from Konoha. Shikako frowned in mock annoyance. I didn't explode it, she grumbled. I made a new kind of seal. Yeah? Ino asked. Shikako shrugged. Most offensive combat seals are about creating an effect or situation that will fatally injure your opponent. This one skips straight to the death part. It doesn't inflict an injury, it's more direct. A straight-up killing seal? Ino asked. Huh. I thought nobody could make those. Well, it has disadvantages. Shikako acknowledged. Radius and timer isn't flexible, and it's not the kind of thing I can practice, even if I wanted to. Making sure the target is right above the scroll when it opens is the only way to hit anything. And it will only get one thing at a time. If a sparrow's between the scroll and the target, it'll just kill the sparrow instead. Really, a giant summons is the only situation where I can see it really being useful. Maybe if someone with frightening powers of regeneration was trapped for long enough I could use it, but that's about it, Shikako explained, animatedly enough. Ino rolled her eyes. You keep complaining about the disadvantages, but that doesn't change the fact that you made a seal that pretty much every seal master ever has tried and failed to make. Shikako was quiet for a moment. I suppose I just thought about it differently, Shikako said, looking away from Ino, out towards the grass clearing. Most seal makers try to describe death as if it's a wound, or a type of sleep, she said, and that's not. Shikako shook her head. That's not the right way of thinking. The seal I made death's like getting lost. I just snipped the anchor line. There was something terribly far away in her eyes. You didn't get lost, though. You made it back, Ino reminded her. That was Shika. Shikako's voice was so quiet, Ino almost didn't hear her. I just reached back, she continued distantly. Her hand made a trembling, grasping motion. Shikako looked down at it like it was a strange, alien thing. Like it belonged to someone else. He was probably a better anchor than my body would have been. I'm used to using Shika to hold on to. There was something very sad in her expression. I've never been very fair about it. Something ancient and self-condemning in her eyes. You've been fighting with him, Ino said gently. Factually. Not a reproach, but an invitation. Because asking about her death, no. Shikako would retreat from that. But a fight with her brother, if there was something for Ino to fix, a reason Shikako could excuse herself for talking about something that made her feel so weak. Shika and I have different ideas on what makes a person safe, Shikako, the closest to bitterly Ino had yet heard from her. Then she sighed. But I think it's more that I haven't been able to be there for him, afterwards. It's the one time in our lives he's actually needed me for support, and I've just been. Her lips tightened. I just shoved everything off for him to deal with alone. Because I can't. Her voice cracked, and her face twisted. She was silent a moment. I think this is the only time he's ever asked me for something, Shikako finished. The words hung there, rippling through the silence like waves in a pond. There are some things, Ino knew, that you couldn't let be true. Because it would break you. And Shikako was frighteningly good at sharpening a truth until she could break herself upon it, if there wasn't someone to ground her perspective. Ino had wondered more than once if that was one of the reasons Shikako could be so determined to not deal with things sometimes. But Shikako was trying to deal with this now, and that made it Ino's job to try to turn her perspective around to something a little more forgiving. And maybe more truthful, at least in Ino's opinion. Shikako's vision tended to magnify her failures and blinker her strengths. It was endearing sometimes, but worrisome more so. From our last year in the academy alone, the list of things Shikamaru has asked you to handle because it was too troublesome for him to bother with is longer than my arm, Ino said, mild chiding in her voice. Shikako looked confused for a moment, and then actually rolled her eyes. It was an improvement over her previous mood, at least. Ino, walking 12 steps to the front of the room and handing Irika-sensei our papers isn't what I was talking about. I mean important things. Everything's important, Ino replied earnestly. What we do day to day doesn't suddenly stop mattering because we do it so often. She paused a moment, to let her point sink in. You know Shikamaru's always trusted you to do the gentle pushing, Ino continued. You just calmly set things up in a way that prompts him to do the things that would be more troublesome to not do, so he doesn't actually have to bother working up the energy himself. You spoiled him a bit, really. It cracked a smile from Shikako. One that looked more present than the dazed, wistful thing that had graced her face before. Especially compared to the non-gentle pushing? She asked. Ino smirked in acknowledgement, then let it gentle into something softer. If you didn't notice him asking for things, it was because you kept giving him what he needed before you even had the chance to consciously register what he'd asked for. And he did the same for you. So don't say he never asked for things before. You two always did that, the whole academy, Ino said. Shikako was quiet for a little while. I guess we did, she said softly. She let her knees curl up. Then sighed, bone deep. I wish we weren't fighting. She let her finger worry themselves against the friendship bracelet on her wrist for a minute or two before she continued. I don't know how to fix things without actually talking about it. And Shika wants me to talk about it, and her lips twisted, and she shook her head. Do you want me to talk with him for you? Ino asked. Shikako paused, clearly torn. This is the part where you say yes, Ino prompted. Shikako huffed a laugh. I don't mind you talking to Shika about it, hell, tell him this whole conversation if it would help. I'm not sure it will. Not if I don't do it myself. She frowned. You let me worry about that, Ino assured her. She paused for a moment. You're usually pretty private, though. Are you sure you don't mind what I tell him? Or how? If it helps fix this mess, then I don't really care about anything else, Shikako said, a bit of frustration leaking through. But she hesitated for a moment before continuing, though maybe not anything we talked about in the hospital? I don't. The memory ended. Shikamaru blinked. In the minutes he'd been within Ino's jutsu, his eyes had somehow gotten wet. He swallowed, convulsively. Thanks, he managed. I am such a fucking idiot. Sasuke cursed himself as he left the training field. I just had to activate Sharingan and escalate it. I could have ended it right there if I had stepped back and tried to calm her down instead. It wasn't supposed to end that way. What he had had in mind was to finally start paying Shikako back in similar fashion for her games during the mission to Wave and before their first exams. He hadn't intended for his attempt at mischief to turn into a death match. I need to get control of myself. I really could have killed her. That was the ultimate problem. Shikako threw the first blow and Sasuke did exactly what was normally expected. He fell back on his training and activated his Sharingan, leading Shikako to redouble her efforts, thinking that he was Itachi. Then they nearly killed each other. Sasuke checked the sun's progress across the sky as he made his way across the village by way of the rooftops, chakra suppressed as far down as he could make it so that he was functioning without its benefits, and decided that he still needed to hurry to get done what he needed to get done so he could be back on time. Kiba wasn't at Team Kurenai's chosen field, so he tracked down Kiba at the Inuzuka compound, watching a little girl in a yellow coat play with a collection of dogs. I never thought you were into babysitting. I am when it's Shino's sister. Kiba returned with a grin. What's up, copycat? I didn't know you were back. I'm not, Sasuke answered. Have you finished with the scroll I left you? Kiba gave him a long look and nodded, calmly getting up and making a come with me gesture. Yeah, come with me and I'll get them. I can tell you're in a hurry and my room has a window. He turned to the girl. Chiyako, he called. I'm going to get some stuff for Sasuke. Don't push them too hard, Daikuro's still having problems with his ribs. Kiba lead him into the house, a low-ceilinged building with wood paneling on the inside that gave the vague impression of a dog's den. Akamaru was passed out on the couch. So what's biting you? Don't lie, it's all over your face. Sasuke paused. Me and Shikako nearly killed each other today, he said slowly and carefully. Kiba gave him a particularly careful look. I'm going to assume training accident. Sasuke tilted his hand back and forth, and grimaced. Kinda not really, he clarified, explaining the situation more thoroughly as they walked through the halls. At least it ended well and it seems you both know where you went wrong, the Inuzuka said afterwards, a slow grin spreading on his face as he opened the door to his room and began sorting through the contents of the desk along the wall as he searched for the fire jutsu scroll. I really don't see what's so funny about it, Sasuke commented defensively at the grin on Kiba's face. Well, look at it this way, copycat, Kiba explained, locating the scroll and tossing it from one hand to the other. At least you've learned how to have some fun. I'm sure that's a drastic improvement in your mental stability. Anything else you need? I'm sure you didn't come all this way just for that. Kiba continued, grinning widely and completely unperturbed by the genuinely unimpressed half-glare being leveled his way. Sasuke nodded. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be gone for too much longer before I really do come back, and I need you to get everyone ready for a status report, just the 12 of us, about that issue of us being targeted once I get back. That got his attention. You have new information? Sasuke nodded. The situation is much worse than we originally thought. I don't have the time to explain fully right now, but the best advice is to get ready for war in 3 years. Against Kumo? IWA? Kiba snapped out. Not that I know of, but apparently he and Kisame have friends. Kiba relaxed and tossed him his scroll. I'll tell them to double time it. Mom found a manned IWA bunker inside our borders a week or two ago. That should serve as a suitable excuse. What? Sasuke hissed. You're joking. Nope, but I do know a damn good one about an Uchiha that copied the art of the hairball from a cat and regretted it the rest of his life. Kiba paused. Congratulations, by the way. What do you mean? Now it was Kiba's turn to level an unimpressed look. Don't lie to me, Sasuke. I'm not Shikamaru, but I'm not an idiot. You can't fool my nose. I know where you've been. Congratulations. Thanks. Don't tell anyone, though. Wouldn't dream of it. Does Shikako know? Kiba asked. No, she doesn't. That's between you two then. Sasuke opened the window. I'll see you later, dog's breath. One last thing, Kiba stated. Sasuke paused on the windowsill. Mom has apparently decided that it's perfectly okay to try to hit on Shikako for me without asking me first. Kiba elaborated. You know, dropping hints how me and Shikako would be a good couple and how our kids might actually inherit some brains. I'm not interested in her, but I just thought you would want to know. You know, as her teammate, he said, holding his hands up. Sasuke dropped out the window without another word, and Kiba suppressed his laughter all the way back to Chiyako at the expression on his face. The Uchiha looked like he was going to be sick. Sasuke felt like he was going to be sick as he left and raced across town to exchange the scroll with a new set of techniques he could learn. He didn't like that idea or the flash of sheer panic that gripped his stomach that accompanied it at all. Not that he knew why that idea made him feel sick to his stomach, nor, he thought, was he particularly eager to think about it. The next morning saw Sasuke at the training grounds with a bag of sweet bean rolls he knew he wasn't going to eat and his cheap, mass-produced, Anbiyu katana in hand. "I'm sorry for not telling you anyway." He apologized as he sat down next to Shikako and placed the bag next to her. She took a blank look at the bag before shifting it to him. "That's not dash." She broke off before placing her head in her hands. "I'm not mad at you anymore, Sasuke." "That doesn't mean I still shouldn't be apologizing. I should have told you," Sasuke argued. "You weren't supposed to in the first place." "Yeah, and we're supposed to know about Akatsuki, and whatever it is that Sai is a part of." He rolled his eyes. Shikako let out a huff. "I get why you did it. Just please be careful. If you see or hear things that don't add up, tell Kakashi-sensei, tell Tsunade, tell somebody." She paused. "This scares me more than Akatsuki does," she admitted. "Because, and I'm just guessing here, but they might have been the ones who leaked our location during the mission with the mill owner. Orochimaru couldn't have gotten that information so quickly if someone high up in command hadn't gotten it for him. What that implies scares me." Sasuke's mouth went dry. "It implies that someone high up wants me worse than dead, fast. And that's why you were pissed." "Oh, that's not it. I still can't believe that you just let them put a goddamn seal on you. Did you even ask what it did, or who controls it for that matter?" She burst out, voice rising in a tone that clearly exclaimed, "Are you fucking stupid?" Sasuke opened his mouth to argue, then closed it instead, suitably chastised. "Well, it isn't a kill switch. I think they would have activated his if it was." Sasuke sighed. "You're right, it was stupid. Next time they want to put a seal on me, I'll refuse." He fidgeted. "If I let you put a seal on me that could tell you where I was, would that make you feel better about it?" Shikako looked up, eyes wide, and then they turned to anger, and she hit him again, hard, right over his ANBU seal. "Letting people put seals on you is exactly what I'm pissed at you for in the first place, you idiot." "Yeah, but you're you," he yelped. "You're my best friend. You're not going to blow my head off if I disobey you. I trust you." Shikako snorted, still not pleased, but mollified. Her shoulders slumped. "Yeah, it would. Not now, though. I don't have any ink." Sasuke grinned. "Whenever you're ready." Part 2. "Oh, so are your ac?" Kiba commented around the plastic needle cover as Sasuke entered the exam room. The dog on the table whined pitifully. He eased the syringe into the dog's scruff. "Oh, shut up, you do this every year," he said in exasperation as he ruffled the dog's neck fur and threw the recapped needle into the trash. "I've been back for a week or two," Sasuke corrected. "I've been working out a lot of stuff in my system." He took a closer look at the dog. "That isn't. He isn't Dash. And yes, he is Ihei, one of Kakashi-sensei's dogs," Kiba confirmed, plucking the next syringe off the desk and readying it for use. "So what's up? Are you, Shino, and Hinata free next Saturday?" Sasuke asked, warily eyeing Ihei. The dog whined and put on a face that could have melted butter. Kiba caught the exchange. "Ihei, if we pups know some things that we aren't supposed to, but will make us better able to take care of ourselves and our pack, would you tell Kakashi?" Ihei perked up and barked. Kiba rolled his eyes. "I keep telling you, that's their choice, but yes, if I have to hold that over your heads to keep you from telling him, then fine. Blackmail it is." Ihei huffed and barked defiantly. Akamaru barked up from the corner. Kiba pointed back at his partner. "Exactly what Akamaru said. We're telling you, they just won't like it at all. Then where will you get your treats?" Ihei's shoulders slumped in defeat as he let out a woof. "That's what I thought," Kiba noted smugly before turning back to Sasuke. "All right, he'll stay quiet. Speak freely." Kiba dug a piece of smoke-dried meat out of his pocket and tossed it to Akamaru, who snapped it out of the air and got down to chewing loudly and happily. Sasuke nodded to Akamaru, "Thanks." Akamaru gave a happy bark and a tail that furiously beat on the floor as an answer. Sasuke let out a deep breath. "We need to have that Konoha 12 meeting we talked about earlier. I've talked with Keiko. We're going to put privacy seals all over one of the buildings in the Uchiha complex, and that's where we'll have it. And yes, it really is necessary." Kiba nodded. "You said next Saturday?" "Yep, the girls are having their thing on Sunday, and it seems like we'll all be in the village." We'll be there, won't we, Akamaru? Akamaru barked in response. Part 3. So, we have a problem. Shikako began, exchanging a short glance with Sasuke as she spoke to the other 9 in the room. We've had a problem ever since Orochimaru showed up 6 months ago. Please get on with the elaboration. Niji commented blandly. You all remember when Naruto was nearly kidnapped by Itachi. Shikako continued. Ino shifted where she stood across the room and Shikamaru tensed, the words "and put you in the hospital" screaming going unsaid like an elephant in the room. It turns out he's not working alone. Sasuke elaborated. He's part of an organization of 9 shinobi, all after the Bijou, all S-class psychopaths. They call themselves the Akatsuki. Known members are Kisame Hashigaki and Sasori of the Red Sands. The silence could have been cut with a knife. Kiba whistled. Add that to our problems with Orochimaru, Kumo, and that all of us know by now that an active IWA bunker was found inside our borders and we're getting ready to get caught up in some serious shit. I agree. Why? Because 9 S-class missing mean going after the Bijou can result in nothing good for us. Shino explained, clearly disturbed. Where is this information coming from? Tenten inquired, frowning and folding her arms. This doesn't sound like the kind of information we're supposed to have. Not at our level. It's not. Everything we know about them, which is pretty much everything we just told you, came straight from Itachi's mouth and was confirmed by Jiraiya, or was discovered by Jiraiya, and the only reason he knows that much is because Orochimaru is a former member. Shikako answered, her eyes flicking over to the kunoichi. In fact, Tsunade probably wouldn't be a fan if she knew I was telling you. But no one else seems to be doing anything, and since we're the ones who will be around Naruto the most when he comes back, Sasuke thought we should go ahead and get it out so we can start getting ready for them. She added hesitantly, folding her own arms up. Tenten didn't seem to have anything to say to that. Ino, on the other hand. So let me get this straight, there's Kumo, Kusa, IWA, Orochimaru, and 9 other S-class ninja including Itachi, the tailless-tailed beast, and Suna's puppet prodigy, and all of them are after Konoha in one way or another. And yet we're not supposed to know about any of it? She asked incredulously. That's only the beginning. Sasuke began. Before Naruto left, he and Shikako were placed on a set of missions with a Chunin named Sai, who eventually admitted to ninja taking orders from someone other than the Hokage and is high up enough for Sai to pass for NBU. Me and Shikako think that whoever this is might be responsible for the Team 7 info leaks that let Orochimaru send his people to intercept us. Shikako shot him a shocked glance. Sasuke dash. No, let him go on. Kiba demanded. Does Tsunade know about this? Shikako let out an annoyed snort. Yeah, there's no way she doesn't. His paperwork looked like it was invented the day before. I think those missions were meant to let him draw himself out a bit more. Shino nodded. That seems like a sound strategy. He commented thoughtfully. So, looks like the million-real question is what do we do about all this? Choji commented through a new mouthful of chips. Everyone turned to look at Shikamaru. Shikamaru leveled a mild glare. Off the top of my head? He asked. No idea. Why don't we ask Sasuke, since apparently he's the one dragging us into all this? It's not his fault, Shika. Shikako stated firmly. We've talked about this. Kiba was less tactful. Shikamaru, so help me if you choose now to be illogical I can and will beat sense back into you. He said shortly, gaining the shocked attention of everyone in the room. You're not the only one with a sister who's been in some shitty situations, and Shikako is very capable of taking care of herself. Ask anyone here who saw her fight with Gaara. Get the fuck over it. We're shinobi, life-threatening danger is what we do for a living. Now, Kiba continued, turning to the other occupants. As Choji suggested, any helpful ideas beyond get stronger and kill the bastards? Sasuke hesitated before sighing. The Uchiha archives are filled to the top with jutsu of every description and element. I'm willing to get you anything you want as long as it isn't Sharingan related. I'll let you all know if anything comes through intel. Ino offered. I'll probably stay in longer than Shikako will so. Shikako smiled slightly. Thanks Ino, they dress in black cloaks with red clouds. I'll be keeping my eyes open as well. I cannot learn more than the most basic jutsu and tricks because of the chakra cost of my contract with my Kikai. Shino explained. So I will begin breeding significantly more destructive and lethal Kikai instead. He slumped as well as improving my taijutsu. Yash! Lee cheered. I will do the same. You are welcome to practice with us anytime, Shino. Shino nodded like a man walking to his death. Thank you, Lee. You are most welcome, Shino. I have an idea that I'll be working on to improve my two-headed wolf drill, Kiba informed. I guess now would also be a good time to annoy Hana into teaching me medical jutsu. She'd do that? Ino asked. Well, yeah. I can't see any reason why she wouldn't. Why? You want me to ask her if she'll teach you girls? Hinata said that medical stuff was why you started meeting every week. I don't think she'll have a problem teaching you as long as you know your anatomy. Shikako and Ino exchanged a look. Hell yes, Ino Yamanaka gets beat by no one. Kiba shrugged. Cool, anyone else? Tsunade's idea of having a medic on each team sounds good to me. Tenten shook her head. I've already tried. My control was never up to par. Kiba waved a hand dismissively. You don't need great control to be capable of saving a life. I don't, and I've saved plenty of dogs. Just pay me for the supplies and I'll make sure all of us are up to scratch on non-chakra medic work and outfitted as well. I'll pay for everyone's supplies, Sasuke offered, in a tone of a man being reminded of something he'd rather forget. Kiba frowned. Sasuke, do you even know how much? He paused for a moment. Never mind, you're loaded. Sorry, I forgot. I please continue forgetting. I really prefer not to think about it. Tenten narrowed her eyes enviously. You're so rich you forget about it? What do you think I do with it? I have an average apartment, my clothes belong to my cousins, and I earn plenty enough to pay my bills, and buy equipment and food. Other than the swords I commissioned, I don't use it. Outfitting everyone with enough medical equipment to run a field hospital is the most useful thing the inheritance that I'd rather not have will ever do. Sasuke pointed out blankly. In fact, this is the only time this building has been useful for any reason in the past 6 years. We wouldn't have even come here if all the seals on the walls weren't necessary. Speaking of medical jutsu, Hinata began quietly, tapping her fingers together. Should we tell Sakura-chan? I wouldn't tell her about the serious stuff, but if you can get her to teach you, I'd go ahead with it. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to train her up either, Kiba suggested casually. Who's Sakura? Niji asked. Sakura Haruno. She's a classmate of ours that moved into medical after graduation. Apparently now she's Tsunade's apprentice if the rumors are correct. Shikamaru answered boredly. They're true, Shikako confirmed shortly. If that is all, Shino started. I will be leaving. Why? Because I must get to work on my part, and my sister has asked me to assist her in her own projects. They didn't need to do that, Sasuke muttered to me quietly, after a few false starts. It's not about need, I said, glancing back at Mum and Dad walking arm in arm. They were taking their time. Come on. I'll race you. Das Chapter 109. Where to? Sasuke asked, temporarily broken out of his thoughts as Shikako pulled him along with a smile on her face. The crane, she answered. Aoba invited me to a thing with the rest of the special jounin, so I figure we can drop by and get that out of the way. Then we can have the rest of the celebration with the rest of our friends. You know where that is? She asked. Sasuke nodded. The crane was a small, open-air bar more similar to a food stand like Ichiraku's than a traditional bar. He'd met his squad captain there several times over the past weeks. Yeah. Hey Dash! He yelled as she took off like one of the fireworks he could hear over the lake. He raced after her, half feeling like he was flying as he took to the rooftops. He could see Shikako flitting along the streets below like a dragonfly as he overtook her in the final 100-meter stretch to the stall and, having beat her there, hid around the corner of a building on their side of the street. With his chakra suppressed as far down as he could get it, combined with the riot of lights and sound, Shikako never saw it coming as she barreled out of the alley, and he caught her by surprise as he pulsed his chakra signal loudly to avoid the result of the last time he startled her. Her face was a picture in shock. I beat you, Sasuke said smugly as he hugged her, pleased at his success in paying her back for the mischief she caught him in at the end of their mission to Wave Country. Yeah, you're a regular little yellow flash. No need to rub it in, she said, patting him on the arm. He released her, and they walked across the street to the collection of tables situated in a small knot alley that was beside a food stall and separated from the street with a banner like Ichiraku's that had a crane on it. Shikako waved slightly as they approached and took seats, Shikako between Aoba and himself, while he sat reluctantly by Anko, who immediately pulled him into something resembling a headlock, and he was forced to turn his head to the side to avoid being crushed. Hey Squirt! You miss your big sister? She said excitedly. Like a disease, and we're not related, he responded vehemently. Silly cat, anyone who was screwed over by Psycho Bastard is my little brother. We're one big dysfunctional family, she said, pulling him in tighter. Orochimaru is not my father, Sasuke choked out. Genma took out his senbon and tapped Anko on the shoulder. Sweetheart, let him go, he's turning blue. You don't want to piss off Kakashi, and Shikako over there has a nasty talent with explosives, or so they say. Anko took note of Sasuke's distinctly oxygen-needy coloration and let him go, patting him on the back. Sorry. Got carried away there. She apologized with a slightly embarrassed expression. Shikako frowned and passed him a glass of water, which he drank greedily. Are you okay? He nodded. Just give me a minute. He coughed. Shikako narrowed her eyes at Anko. You sure, Sasuke? Yeah. I'm fine, he assured her. Conversation shifted to Anko trying for full jounin and that Hate was late picking up Yugao. They'll be here, Aoba affirmed. Yugao just got back from a non-NBU solo mission to Rivers yesterday, and they're probably just making up time. Sasuke nearly choked on his dai when Hate spoke up as he and Yugao walked up, arms linked behind Aoba's seat. We're here, we were, and what we do in our bed is none of your business, Aoba. Hate paused to cough. Aoba grinned and held up his hands in defense. Hey, I'm just making an excuse for you. I'm on your side here. Yugao rolled her eyes and placed the last chair between Anko and Sasuke. Hate sat and that's when the great discussion started. So, Yugao tells me that you commissioned some swords. Tell me everything, he asked as Yugao sat in his lap. The smith is Mayuri Shoei. They are a katana wakizashi pair, and they're copies of Mom's swords. Sasuke began. The overall length of the wakizashi is 67 centimeters with a 20 centimeter handle and a 45 centimeter blade. The overall length of the katana is 94 centimeters with a 26 centimeter handle and a 68.5 centimeter blade. He explained to the sword connoisseurs. The handles are a new full tang design instead of the traditional two-peg construction with 2 red maple handle scales and 3 rivets. The edges are saber grinds. Hate frowned. The katana seems a little big for you. I'll grow into it. Until then I'll be using the mass production, or the wakizashi, Sasuke justified. I'm not planning to use both at the same time anyway. Steel? He coughed. Not at all traditional, it's why it's taking so long. He tried it out on one sword, and found that the results were way better than starting with iron sand, and now he's backed up with orders right up to the daimyo's kids. From what he's telling me, he's taking broken parts of cranes and construction equipment, or regular tools, and making them into swords. Yugao frowned. That's ridiculous. The blade would be way too hard and brittle. Where is he getting the soft iron core to absorb the shock? He's not. He's ditching the traditional approach altogether and tempering it so that the blade is more flexible, and that is how it absorbs the shock. It gives a few problems with edge alignment, but it's easy to get used to, Sasuke admitted. It's new technology, and I think that they'll replace our katanas in ANBU, eventually. They are cheaper, because we can pay for the material by giving him our broken equipment. Mine is being made out of some of the weaponry that got left by Suna during the invasion. He bought it all. They are more durable. They hold an edge better too. Yugao raised an eyebrow. I might have to borrow the katana when you do get it, she said. It sounds like a perfect wedding present. She nudged Hate. I heard. Hate confirmed with a smile, tapping her upper arm. Why saber grind? A convex grind is more durable, and it's not like you can't get a convex just as sharp as a saber. Yeah, but then the edge will be thicker and it won't as easy to produce deeper cuts, Sasuke debated. So which grind do Kunai use? Shikako asked, having finished her conversation with Ibiki. Flat, Sasuke answered. If the blade has a triangular cross-section, it's a flat grind edge. But it produces a bad spine on a sword. Hollow grinds produce the sharpest, but they're fragile and prone to chipping. Besides, Hate said grumpily, why would you know anything about swords? Yours is the Raijin no Ken, you don't need to worry about metallurgy and edge grinds. You're just jealous it isn't yours, Sasuke pointed out, rolling his eyes. Guilty as charged. Shikako, Ino called merrily, waving across the street. Sakura was with her, looking apologetic. There you are. I clinked glasses with Sasuke and ducked out of the food stall. He nodded to me, but kept on talking with Hate and his purple-haired girlfriend about swords. There were opinions being had. Mine apparently didn't count. Well, the joke was on them because my sword went some. Not going to go with her? Yugao asked. Sasuke shook his head. I'll wait a little while before meeting up with her again. I'd rather not have to deal with Haruno again unless I have no other choice. Wouldn't have thought you'd be scared of a civilian girl. Hey poked. Sasuke leveled a glare that could melt steel. By the barest of technicalities, she's not. And you'd be wary too if the most persistent of your fangirls suddenly made an appearance after spending the last 7 months learning in a hospital, the last 4 of which was spent learning part-time under Tsunade. And considering how much time my team seems to require the skill of high-level medics, I have a right to be worried. And the other girl? Ino? She's okay. She was almost as irritating as Sakura in the academy, but then we went through enough high-stress missions our first and second Chunin exams, the invasion. I realized that she wasn't as idiotic and ditzy as she first appears, and she's been broken of whatever illusions she had about me. We'll never be that close of friends, but she's not that bad to work with as teammates. Catching a glance of Team 8 out of the corner of his eye, he made his leave and headed over. Sasuke, Kiba greeted. Welcome to the Year of the Dog. HN, Kiba, Shino, Hinata. Akamaru. He greeted in return. Where are you headed? The lake. Shino answered. We're going to watch the fire dancing. A little girl in sunshine yellow exclaimed from her place on Shino's back. Ah, yes. You have not met my sister, have you, Sasuke? Shino asked. Sasuke shook his head. Not officially, though I think I saw her when I had to talk to Kiba once. Shino looked over his shoulder. Chiyako, Sasuke. Hi. Chiyako announced happily, letting go of Shino's neck with one arm so she cowed wave at him. It's good to meet you. Sasuke returned politely. So where's Shikako? Kiba asked. I would have thought you'd be with her. With Ino and Haruno. Is that Shikamaru and Tenten? Hinata asked hesitantly as Chiyako ran off toward Shikako, who was with the other 2 girls about 100 meters away, turning on her Byakugan and then very quickly turning it off with a blush. Kiba looked over carefully. Wow, yeah, it's them. And I think they're sucking face too. Shino frowned thoughtfully. I must admit, I did not see that coming. Why? Because I did not know that they knew each other that well. He paused. I wonder if her team knows? Kiba froze. Shino Aburame, he said, turning to look him in the eyes with an expression of horror and awe. That is the most evil thing I have ever heard of Bar Orochimaru. Kiba drugged Shino up by the hand. You are fucking brilliant! Kiba exclaimed as he drug a furiously protesting Shino off in search of Rock Lee and Guy. Oh, this cannot be good. Sasuke muttered as he left in search of a street vendor that sold good luck charms. He was going to be prepared this year. Happy New Year's, Sasuke said as he sat down beside Shikako. Hey, where have you been? You win that argument? Shikako asked, passing him a bottle of sake. It was a draw and Team 8, he answered, taking a sip and passing it back along with an omamori. Shikako accepted it awkwardly. Thanks, she said, weighing it in her hand. You didn't have to. Sasuke shrugged and held up his own. Believe me, I did. I figured we'd be better prepared this year. Shikako let out a short laugh at that. Yeah, she giggled, I suppose we should. Oh, make 2. Shikako, Sasuke called as he furiously searched his house. Have you seen my chakra saber? What? Have you seen my chakra saber? He asked again. I think I put it away. Why do you need it? Shikako asked, stumbling out of the bathroom looking sick and holding her back and very round stomach. Because I need it, Sasuke yelled from across the house. Our village is in danger. How warm my bed is in danger. And I am deeply sorry about that. But Kumo is doing stupid shit at the border. This is for the greater good, he argued. Shikako stormed down the hall. Chiyako is good enough to take care of that. And I am the greatest good you are ever going to get. With the Jashinis subdued and unconscious, there wasn't much left to do besides further secure their prisoner and begin combing the dead for their missing Genin Core ninja. What should we do about Dash? Shikako asked as Aoba passed them a couple pictures of the 2 ninja, gesturing vaguely about the bodies lying everywhere. Nothing, Aoba answered shortly. Not our problem. We'll need to catalog specific cause of death for all of them, which we can't do if they're 6 feet under or burned. Unless we get assigned back to this, it's another team's issue. A report will be written and the daimyo will be alerted. But other than writing a mission report and transferring the prisoner to TNI, the 3 of us can wash our hands of this. Shikako nodded, faintly disturbed by the answer. The genin are another story. Seal them up. We have to take them back home. Konoha has a no one left behind policy, and their families are going to want to know what happened. Aoba added, turning to comb the north side of the town. Sasuke turned to face Shikako. I'll take east and south. I still have enough chakra for a shadow clone and to still be combat capable. For a moment it looked as though she was going to disagree, but she just nodded and spread her hands. I'll take west then. Sasuke made his shadow clone and turned to search their parts of the village. Wait, both of you, Shikako added. Don't use your Sharingan. The Sasuke clone looked at him to confirm. Yeah. The original Sasuke agreed. No Sharingan. I don't want any more of this in my head. They all left to search their separate sections, and Sasuke was left with the unenviable task of wrenching dead bodies firmly in the grasp of rigor mortis to compare their bloated, pale faces to the pictures Aoba gave him. I don't think not using Sharingan is going to stop me from remembering all this. He thought sickly as he knelt in the squishy ropes of a girl's intestines to check her face, which matched perfectly. That's one down. He shook himself as he wiped the blood off his knees. I should have worn long pants. He grabbed the Genin's ankles and dragged her corpse off to the side so he could seal it. Uchiha, Aoba said your team required backup. Report. Sasuke turned to look at the cat-masked figure in black. Yugao Daicho. We thought we did. We arrived at 1300 and found the entire town dead. Assuming a larger number of shinobi, Aoba sent a crow for immediate backup and we proceeded with caution. Sasuke began. We found the one shinobi responsible, or at least a civilian with capabilities for using chakra higher than usual, because he was capable of seal-less replacement and a summoning jutsu. We fought him and left him restrained with a knockout tag in the middle of the village. Sasuke held up the scroll. We're looking for our genin now. I've found one. I think Aoba said that the other was in a town even closer to our hot springs coast border. Sasuke paused. That one's probably slaughtered too, Taicho. Yugao hopped down from the roof. My team is searching the village. We'll find the other genin after we're done here as well. Sasuke nodded. Aoba is on the north side. Shikako is on the west. I have a shadow clone in the south. Tell them to collect the prisoner and go back to Konoha immediately. Ibiki's going to want him ASAP. Yugao ordered. Later, after their reports were handed in, their dead genin turned over, and the culprit placed in one of Tianai's cells. Shikako, Aoba, and Sasuke found themselves back in front of Tsunade giving a verbal report. Why is it that you can't have just one mission go according to plan? Tsunade ranted to herself. And why can't I ever see anything to suggest that it was actually your fault? Tsunade fumed. Just please get out of my office. It is too late in the day for this shit. I will call you back if we need anything else. That went so much better than I thought it would. Sasuke breathed in relief as they left the Hokage Tower, and Aoba made his leave. How did you think it would go? Shikako asked, raising an eyebrow. I don't know, but worse than that, he responded. Shikako looked as though she was going to say something about that, but then she shook her head and abandoned it. You're coming over later, right? Wouldn't miss it, Sasuke confirmed. For now, I need a shower. He grimaced, thinking of the gunk on his legs and arms from the bodies. Sasuke flared his chakra signal as he knocked on the door. This was the first time he'd been back to the Naras since the New Year's festival, and he was still confused about their acceptance of him into their celebrations. Welcome back, Shikako greeted warmly. He opened the door wider and stepped to the side to let Sasuke in. Shikako is out back with Shikamaru. Thank you, Sasuke replied. So, first mission out since the exams. Shikako continued. How was it? He asked way too casually. Yeah, because there's no fucking way the Jounin commander doesn't know that his daughter's first real mission out of the village with her teammate in 3 months ended with the uncovery of 2 civilian villages and 2 genins slaughtered by a single man. Sasuke thought wryly. He nearly said it too, before he recognized it for what it was and felt a wave of appreciation crash over him. While he didn't particularly relish his promised conversation with Shikako about walking into another massacre, and he didn't feel great about discussing it with her father, he got the idea that maybe Shikako was asking him so he could ask Shikako. That Sasuke felt he could deal with, and if that wasn't the case, he could at least treat it as though it was. Sasuke opened his mouth to speak and then thought better of it as he pondered where to begin. The smell was the worst part. He finally started. Other than kneeling in guts. He conceded with disgust. Shikako leaned back against the wall. It generally is. He agreed calmly, a clear invitation to go on. Sasuke felt his mouth go dry. The sight of it all wasn't as bad. I only had my Sharingan on for the fight, and I was only looking at our opponent, whoever he was. Sasuke let a breath out his nose, I don't know how it was for Shikako. She handled it better than I thought she would. He snapped his head up. Not that I thought she wouldn't be able to, he added. I just thought she'd be more disturbed, considering she's never seen that before. He pushed out. Shikaku tilted his head back and seemed to consider his next words. His name is Kiyoshi Himura. He's a member of a religious cult out of the land of hot springs that worship their god by spreading mass murder. He explained. Kiyoshi was very willing to explain his motivations. None of which are classified, he assured. That's how many are there? Sasuke asked. No idea. It's only been 4 hours. Shikaku pointed out before making his way off toward the kitchen. Sasuke found Shikako on the back portion of the deck with a shogi board and her brother in front of her. Hey, he greeted, taking a seat beside her. Hey yourself? She returned with a smile, clicking a tile onto the board in a cautious advance. You know anything else? She asked casually. Sasuke nodded and studied the board. Your dad filled me in on a little of it. It's not classified apparently. Shikamaru huffed in irritation. I'm not even going to ask, he said, rolling his eyes and getting up to stretch. Not going to finish? Shikako asked with a frown. Shikamaru shook his head. I'm going out. I'll be back in an hour, he excused, walking away. Shikako frowned and looked at him before raising an eyebrow. You want to finish? She asked with a look that could have given one of the Inuzuka's puppies a run for its money. He snorted and rolled his eyes before moving himself to the opposite side of the board. You're ridiculous. She stuck her tongue out at him in response. So what did Dad have to say about it? Sasuke repeated what he was told and moved a tile carefully before adding he didn't have to leave. Shikako shook her head and sighed. He's just going to find Tenten, most likely. Shikako tilted her head. That's an interesting move, she commented as she swiped his piece. Clearly, I'm just prolonging the inevitable, Sasuke answered not so jokingly. The corner of her mouth turned up in response, and she reached for her drink. You know, Sasuke said as he reinforced his king defense, Kiba told me about what some said. She expelled the drink in a fine mist and a series of hacking coughs. Thanks, jerk, I had almost forgotten that, she said, clearly displeased. Sasuke smiled back disarmingly. He's not interested, in case you were wondering. Nor did he seem pleased at what she did, he informed, a little happy jump in his stomach at her displeased reaction towards the reminder. Oh good, she said, shoulders slumping in relief. I don't have the time for that bullshit right now. She narrowed her eyes in mock suspicion. Something funny? Sasuke moved a piece and nodded. So I guess we're even for the teasing about what's in my mom's letters? He asked innocently. Shikako's eyes widened and she looked down at the board with a faint grin on her face as she remembered the incident. Oh, that was wow. I was not expecting that. Yeah, I guess we are. Sasuke gestured to the board. Next move? He offered cautiously, trying to get his message across. Shikako met his look with one of surprise, and then one of pure mischief. Oh, don't worry, she said, finally clicking a tile into place. I've got a plan. He snorted. I wondered he cut himself off, clearing his throat. How could it be worse than anything I imagined? He gave a sound that might have qualified as a laugh, if it wasn't so helpless. You thought he left you alive because he loved you, I said, because the truth carved it out of me. It was a line of attack I was already committed to, too far in to pull back, to turn aside. He did, Sasuke. He loved you more than anyone, more than his family, more than his village. And that's why you're alive. Sasuke flinched and pulled away. So stupid, he hissed, eyes falling shut. I thought that maybe he just couldn't. It seemed torn out of him, as though he was being gutted by this conversation. And this was it, wasn't it? This was the time. I knew the truth. Sasuke needed to know it. Danzo was still lurking around the edges, and while knowing the truth might put him in danger, not knowing it might also. Your brother loves you, I pictured saying. You aren't wrong. He couldn't. There are things rotten in Konoha and you need to know. But I remembered those eyes. The shape of them so similar to Sasuke. The eyelashes that were long and delicate. The red inhumanness of them, spiraling and spinning. The feel of the cold, dry hand around my neck and the press of stone against my back. The feeling of oil sliding slickly past my eyes, burning into my brain. But he came back, Sasuke said. He came back, like once wasn't enough, and he cut himself off, spinning on his heel and facing me, expressions slamming closed. I shouldn't be talking about this with you. Your brother loved you, Sasuke. Who else are you going to talk about it with? I asked logically, perfectly calm. You know I'm always willing to listen. I didn't have evidence, that was the thing. The Uchiha records proved nothing, even if I could show them to him without arousing suspicion. The closest I had was Sai, and he couldn't say anything about Danzo, and that only proved that Danzo was acting at all. Sai knew nothing about the Uchiha situation. Knew nothing about Itachi. Even if I tried to console him right now, tried to soften the blow of this information, tried to spare his feelings, would I only stir it up further? Would I only introduce more pain and confusion? Yeah, I know, Sasuke said. You want him dead too. My eyes slid away, my own words, of a sort, parroted back to me. I couldn't say they were wrong. I stammered, that cold logic deserting me for a second, and I felt. It was on the tip of my tongue, it was. I closed my eyes, steeled myself, and made a decision. Just like the Akatsuki, a long time ago, I had always told myself that if I got a chance, got evidence, I would try my best to tell him, to give him a chance to decide whether he wanted to forgive Itachi like he had in canon, but before he killed his brother and rendered dead any chance of reconciliation. I had promised myself that, before I met the man, before Tsukiyomi, because I cared about Sasuke, because I didn't want him to break his own heart and not realize it until after he couldn't fix it. And because I still cared about him, even more so now than how I used to, I decided that even though I'd never be able to forgive Itachi, even though I thought he was better off dead, even though I wanted to help kill Itachi myself, that Sasuke still deserved that chance, that giving him what little I had was better than giving him nothing at all. Was better than waiting until I had the full evidence of what happened, because by that time, it might still be too late. I want you to be okay, I said, weighing the words like they were something as precious as gold. And as much as I hate him, I'm not going to, would never want to get in the way of you reconciling with him if that was what you ended up wanting to do. I finished quietly. I'm never going to forgive him, I can't, not after that. But I want you to be okay more than I want him dead. Sasuke looked confused. Angry? Why would I ever want to make things better with him? Hasn't he torn away enough from me, and come back to do it a second time, that would totally destroy any thought I might have of making things better? Even if he came right here and begged me to forgive him, killed himself to make things right with me, I wouldn't forgive him. Not after what he did to you and Kakashi, what he plans to do to Naruto. Sasuke faced me, walking closer until he wasn't more than an arm's length away. You're worth more to me than he could ever be now, he said, squeezing his fists until they were white. My mouth went dry, both because of what he had said, and because of what I needed to tell him. Would I still mean as much to him now that he knew what I had held on to? When Itachi put me under Tsukiyomi, he was aiming for you. I whispered slowly, looking down at the ground as I tried to drag the words out from somewhere deep, deep inside that hurt to dredge up. To show you what he did to your family. I looked up cautiously, wanting to know what his reaction to that would be. He didn't look surprised. You're not? Sasuke sat down slowly and pulled his knees into his chest. He did it to me right after, it makes sense that that would be what he'd want to hurt me with again. He answered quietly. I nodded. After I got out, felt like I needed to know their names, and coming to you just seemed like it would hurt you more, so I went to the archives to look up their pictures, and I paused to figure out how I would start to say what I needed to say, what he needed to hear. A lot of the people I found weren't killed the way that he showed me that he did. Sasuke's eyes were on me like a falcon's. I swallowed. For a while I didn't think much of it. He could have done it to make things more awful for you, or because he didn't remember all the details after so long. But it also could have meant that he had an accomplice. I continued, the words spilling out in an unstoppable rush. Like blood from an artery. Then Sai happened, and he was weird at first, but then he basically flat out told us that someone other than the Hokage was giving orders to a group of people that could have passed for ENBU. Orders that would have been bad for our allies, and you had been getting orders after Orochimaru that weren't trustworthy and came from high up enough that we couldn't track them, information being passed to Orochimaru from somewhere too high up to track that put you in danger. And then I remembered, wait, wasn't Itachi ENBU too? I stopped, tears slipping out as I tried force out as much I as could reasonably explain. And maybe I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong, cause all of my evidence is barely tied together if it is at all. Maybe Itachi went crazy from all the stress and left you alive because he still did love you. Maybe he did it because he's evil and he wants to steal your eyes to cure his own. But there's also the chance that he was blackmailed, ordered, threatened, or manipulated into it, and he left you alive cause that's all he could get away with. Sasuke had gone still, so very, very still, like he had turned to stone or struck by lightning. His eyes blown wide, half horrified, half betrayed. His breathing was shallow. Why didn't Dash? He stopped, like he couldn't, like the rest of the question was just too hard to yank out. Why didn't I tell you? I asked for him. Because I don't have any actual proof. Because I thought it might hurt you more to say it when I can't even prove it. Because I thought saying it would put you in more danger than you already are, that if you knew, it would just make things worse, especially if all you had weren't solid facts. I answered, half pleading, half feeling that I didn't deserve whatever I was pleading for. When you joined the NBU, I was so scared. Now you were right in the middle of it, and I couldn't tell you then, because you'd definitely be in danger if you wouldn't have been before. That's why you were so uptight about Yukumo, he accused, but the tone didn't match. I closed my eyes and nodded, and waited for judgment. Would he be angry? Even if he wasn't, would he ever trust me again? Were we still friends? My breath hitched as I felt him reach over and grab my forearm firmly, and then he yanked me into him. I am so angry right now, he said hoarsely as he pulled me into a hug. But if you think that means anything's changed, you're so wrong. I breathed out heavily, so relieved I felt lightheaded. Thank you? Thank you so much. He snorted, and pulled away to wipe his eyes. He sighed. It doesn't matter, he said heavily, mouth twisting. It's not okay, but it doesn't change anything. At least now I know. My heart was hammering like I was in the middle of a fight. Sure, I said, the word emerging like a bubble through molasses. We should go back, he said, reaching out and fingertips barely brushing my elbow, like he was escorting me. I gave him a weak smile. You know, this probably makes me a bad friend, but I'm absolutely okay with leaving Sakura to explain everything to the Hokage. He snorted. Ah yes, I see what your friendship is worth. He tugged me onwards, clearly meaning to leave the destruction behind us. You don't know the half of it, I thought, eyeing him sideways. I guess there's a lot of damage control to do, I agreed. It was a good thing that Ino told Sasuke last. If she had been any earlier, he would have still been on shift doing patrol duty. As it was, she caught him just as he was about to unlock his apartment, and try his very best to forget the clusterfuck Tora had caused on the north side of the village. And shower, there was no way he was going to do anything without washing the mess Tora had caused to spill all over his clothes. Sasuke! Ino yelled, pushing through the desire to make a comment on how cheerful he looked covered in so much yellow. The ANBU twitched, suppressing the urge to jump like a cat with his tail stepped on at the sound of Ino's voice so close in his ear. He spun, noting the excited but jumpy posture she displayed. What? He replied, a slightly crazed look in his eyes as they met hers. Please, not another batch of weird shit. It doesn't even have to be good, just not something that Genma's gonna bitch at me about later. Yoshino-san's having the baby. She blurted out, breathing heavily. Great, he said before the news completely processed. And then it did, and his mind went blank and frozen before exploding into holy shit, don't panic. This is great, this is wonderful, I need to get to the hospital, quick, 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 quick. Thankfully Ino reminded him about the 2 gallons of paint covering every inch of his clothes, or the maternity ward would have been redecorated. An hour or 2 later he finally checked into the maternity ward as a visitor, and took a seat next to Shikako. Have I missed anything? He asked in not quite a whisper. Nope. Mom's been in labor for the past 2 hours or so. Shika's in with here and Dad right now, she replied, nose firmly in her book, some adventure paperback he'd never heard of, and looking very much like it wasn't providing as much of a distraction as she'd hoped. Sasuke frowned, pushing aside any Shikamaru-related apprehension in favor of leaning over in his seat and resting his cheek on his folded hands. You alright? He whispered. You look like you want to run clear across town. She's gonna be alright, she had the 2 of you at once. This has got to be less complicated than that. I'm fine, she answered shortly, but not unkindly. Being a censor isn't as great as it sounds right now. You can't feel her pain, can you? He asked hesitantly, confused and feeling rather awkward as he said it. Shikako shook her head. No, but her chakra signature keeps flaring and stuff, and it's like an itch I can't ignore. Then Shikamaru stumbled out, looking as though he had just broken a rather disturbing genjutsu and gray as a corpse. You can go in, he offered faintly as he sat down on Shikako's other side. Nope, she refused quietly, leaning her head back and placing her book open face atop her own. I'm quite content not seeing that. Inoichi chuckled and patted Shikako's head as he moved to take Shikamaru's place, joking that Shikako had apparently needed reassurance of his own. Sasuke made a face at that, wondering absent-mindedly what exactly Shikako may have needed someone to hold his hand for. Sounds like a story, Shikako commented, her voice muffled by the book and sounding very much like that was a story she did not wish to hear. Sasuke cast a glance around, feeling not for the first time if Ino was sure he was supposed to have been invited for this, and noticed Tenten, looking even more awkward than he did, and sitting several seats away from Shikamaru. That's strange. Now why they avoiding each other? He stole a glance at Shikamaru and came upon his answer. Oh, he's just not thinking about anything but Yoshino-san. How unfortunate for her. He realized sympathetically. Then Shikamaru seemed to notice his presence, narrowing his eyes, and taking advantage of the book obscuring Shikako's vision as he signed, "Why are you here?" Ino told me. Sasuke signed back shortly, scratching at the corner of his mouth and tapping the fingernails of his right thumb and little finger together. Shikamaru cast a thoughtful glance at the girl, but Sasuke stole back his attention before he could say anything to Ino. "Before scolding her about inviting me, try paying attention to Tenten, she looks uninvited," he signed. Shikamaru looked like he was grinding his teeth together at that before he hid the reaction and made his way over to the girl. Crisis averted. Sasuke thought with relief as he shifted his attention back to Shikako. "How are things?" he whispered. "Worse." He leaned back in the chair and crossed his arms. "Who would have been at mine?" Sasuke wondered, allowing himself the thought. "Father and Shursui, certainly. But who for Mom? Kushina, perhaps?" Sakumo was dead by that time. He trailed off, realizing that he had completely forgotten to tell Shikako what he had discovered from his mother's journals. He shoved it aside. "Not now. Later, when it's a little more private." An increase in noise brought his attention to the nurses that were emptying out the room and Inoichi making his way back to them. Shikako removed the book from her head. Inoichi was smiling. "They're just moving them to an overnight room," he said. "Then we can go and visit." Shikamaru let out a very long sigh and sagged into the plastic hospital chair. What a drag. Ino rolled her eyes at him. "You didn't even do anything," she pointed out. "Come on, at least carry the flowers." He followed everyone over to Yoshino's hospital room and filed in with the rest, moving over to a spot by the wall. He checked the time and mentally cursed. He had an appointment with the ANBU commander, Badger, an hour from now. He had meant to take a short nap beforehand, but this had taken precedence. And then Shikako took an impossibly small swaddled bundle from Yoshino. Shikako cleared his throat. "I'm pleased to introduce the newest member of our family," he said. "Kinokawa Nara." He tilted the bundle towards us and Shikamaru stepped up to hold it. "After my family," Yoshino murmured quietly. "Kino-chan, huh?" Shikamaru asked. Yoshino caught his eye and beckoned him over. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. "I wondered if Ino would be able to find you, with you being on patrols." Sasuke's mouth went dry. "I'm honored," he murmured, turning his Sharingan on as he watched the goings-on to immortalize them forever in his mind. "Your family," Yoshino reassured him, so quietly that he questioned if his imagination hadn't supplied it. Except for that, even in his wildest hopes, that wouldn't have been something to feature. Even if Shikamaru refuses to acknowledge it. Sasuke felt like he had been punched in the guts. "Thank you," he returned, equally as quiet. "I have to go." "Congratulations, Yoshino-san." Ino cooed, leaning over my shoulder. "He's got his mom's eyes. Going to be such a heartbreaker when you grow up, aren't you?" Shikako looked baffled about the statement, and Sasuke had to admit that he felt the same. Congratulations," he stated. "I have to go. So, congratulations." Sasuke offered, Sharingan still on as he watched Shikako hold the baby in her arms, something about the sight making him eternally grateful that he would remember it in perfect detail for as long as he lived. "You're going to leave without holding him?" Shikako asked. Sasuke looked at Shikako, silently asking him for permission. Shikako nodded and made a go-ahead motion with his hands. And then Shikako carefully passed the little bundle into his arms. "It's a promotion to captain, you know." Shikako tapped out on his shoulder. "Stay as long as you like," the Nara patriarch said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "If you have a meeting, I'll make your excuse." It wasn't the night after Shikako came home, or the night after that, or even the night after that. It wasn't the 4th, or the 5th, or even the 6th night after she came home from the disaster in what was the land of hot springs that she had her first nightmare. It was a full week and a half after she stepped foot back in her own house, and slept in her own bed, that she awoke from it with thundering heart and sweat-soaked sheets that she had remembered to use to muffle her scream only just before it tore its way out of her throat. She barely made it to the toilet in time to disgorge everything she had eaten recently with the overpowering taste of blood in her mouth as she tried to push every last fluid ounce of Aoba's blood that she had been forced to drink out of her stomach. Sasuke was dozing in mission sleep on the couch, as he had ever since he'd come home with his friend the first time, when he felt Shikako's chakra come awake with a violent, terrified snap, and as he shot awake, heard the slap of her feet on the floor as she rushed across the hall. He might have stopped if that had been all, knocked on the bathroom door and asked if she was all right before going back to half sleep. But then, the bathroom door was open, and his best friend and beloved was purging like she had just swallowed charcoal voluntarily as a poison extractor. So instead he turned on the cold water and dropped 2 washcloths in the sink to soak it all up. Then he knelt beside her, running his fingers through her hair as he pulled and held it out of the way as she puked again. Pulling one of the washcloths out of the sink and pressing it against the side to wring it out, he slipped the fabric underneath Shikako's hair and draped it across her neck. Shikako shuddered in relief, the feeling of the cold, thin, clear liquid that was most definitely not blood running down her neck washing most of the immediate nausea away. She sobbed in a breath, grimacing at the acrid smell that came with it. "Thanks," she muttered shakily, taking the second cloth from his waiting hand and wiping her mouth with it. He nodded. "Anytime," he whispered. He paused. "Ginger tea?" he asked hesitantly. "It'll help with the nausea." She nodded, needing to taste something better than acid or blood. "Please, I am gonna take a shower, so I'll be down in a minute," she added after a moment, because he was still sitting back on his heels beside her. "All right," he responded, climbing to his feet. "It'll be ready by the time you're done." "Sasuke?" she said, halting him at the door. "Can you just bring it to my room? I don't want anyone else to hear," she explained, accurately guessing that he would want an explanation, and deciding that she wanted to give it to him. Sasuke put the tea, enough for 2, on slowly, keeping his movements quiet to not wake up the rest of the house, a packet of ginger for nausea, lavender for anxiety, and chamomile for easy sleep. As he waited for the tea to boil, he sat down at the table to think. "Beloved?" he asked himself, the word having come unasked into his head as he walked in on Shikako. He considered how he'd felt about her, the way she made him feel, since the grass exams, since he had put her in the hospital in his stead. Really considered them, and not pushed it aside and denied it like he'd been doing up until tonight. "I do love her," he admitted silently. "I love you, Shikako. I think you are the bravest, smartest, most creative, and amazing, and powerful, and beautiful person I know. You're the best friend I've ever had or will have, and I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you," he announced in the depths of his mind where he was brave enough to say it because no one could hear it, a small smile growing on his face and a feeling inside like a sun was about to burst. The teapot screamed, and Sasuke swiftly took it off the stove to let the tea cool and steep. Then he took 2 cups, the one he noticed was Shikako's preferred plus an extra, and filled them with water before putting them in the microwave to warm them up in preparation for the tea. Not long afterward, he heard the water cut off from the shower and then Shikako's feet move across the hall back to her room. Sasuke took a deep breath, held it for a moment, and let it out slowly as the microwave beeped. Figuring out how to deal with his newly accepted feelings would have to wait. Shikako needed him as a friend, and only as a friend tonight. So that's what he would continue to give her. He dumped the water out from the cups, squeezed a generous amount of honey all around the walls of Shikako's cup, and filled both with tea. "You can come in," Shikako answered, dressed in a fresh pair of blues cut off at the knees and elbows, as soon as she heard the knock on her door. Sasuke carefully opened the door, and stepped into her room, holding both cups in one hand by their handles. Once he softly closed the door behind him, he passed her mug off to his other hand and held it out to her as he approached her bed. "Thanks," Shikako said gratefully, flipping up the blankets off the mattress so he could sit down next to her as she took the tea from him. "You know," Sasuke began lightly, "I found out who those people were, the ones from Mom's team photo." She asked, holding her tea close to enjoy the warmth, relaxed into the fragrant taste and smell of it as she took a drink. She smiled. "This is Ino's recipe," she noted. "You even got the honey right." "Yeah. She wrote it on my arm when she visited the night you came back," he confirmed. So who were they?" she asked as she sunk down further into the pillows. "It was Kakashi's father. Tsukumo, Konoha's white fang. That chakra saber was his first before it was Kakashi's. He should have saved it for his son. Sasuke didn't say." Shikako nudged his arm with hers. "He did. She didn't say. I did some digging, and Tsukumo killed himself when Kakashi was 7 after failing a mission that kicked off the Third War to save some wounded teammates. The boy with the bow turned out to be the guy Mom was writing those letters to, Hibiki hate. He's dead now, got killed at the Kumo border when Yujito turned up." He paused. "The red-headed girl was Kushina Uzumaki, and I'm pretty sure she's Naruto's mom. They were best friends too. Naruto will be overjoyed when he hears. I'm glad you're finding all this out," Shikako whispered. Any clue on who his dad was? She asked, lowering her cup. The fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Sasuke answered as he sipped his tea. Shikako snorted. No wonder they wouldn't let anyone know. Sasuke nodded. I found out another thing about that boyfriend of Mom's too. He added. They were going to get married before he died. They were going to do what your parents did. Shikako paused. Your parents didn't care much for each other? She asked hesitantly, taking a drink. Mom hated Dad, and Dad hated almost everyone she cared about. He answered, rocking his head back against the headboard with a dull thud, feeling equally as hollow as he did when he first read it in his mother's handwriting. She thought he was a prideful, stuck-up bastard. He thought she disgraced the clan with her choice of company except for Minato. But they were each powerful, and her parents' last wish was for them to get married, and if she wanted to stay in the clan she had to comply, and cause Hibiki was dead she had nowhere to go. Sasuke swallowed and let out a short, bitter snort. You know, maybe it was just because I was a kid, but I never could tell. They never said a single thing against each other when I was around. I'm closing in on the final entries, and she wrote that the only good things she got out of their marriage were me and him, and I was the only one she actually got to be a mom to. Naruto would have grown up like a brother to me if not for the clan. And I never could tell, not a single fucking argument. Shikako was silent, her mouth dry as a bone. She put her hand over his and squeezed it tight. I'm so sorry. She paused a moment. I'm sorry you had to find that out at all. Sasuke squeezed her hand back. What about you? You want to talk about anything? All this is for you, he reminded her. She nodded, and took a long, deep drink to fill her mouth with the taste Ino's tea blend as her eyes started to well up. They killed Aoba. Slit his throat. And as he died, they held me down and made me drink his blood. And tonight, I had a nightmare about it. And all I could think about was the taste of his blood in my mouth, and how it felt to have a full stomach of it, and how I couldn't breathe with it choking me. She sniffed and took her hand out of his to wipe angrily at her eyes. I thought after the first couple nights of not dreaming about it, I wasn't going to. Sasuke put their mugs on her desk and pulled her into a hug. I should have been there for you, he whispered into her ear after a moment. It seems like every time you suffer, I was the cause of it, or I wasn't there to stop it. And I'm so sorry for failing you. She felt a wave of sheer revulsion and panic, and the most horrible feeling of loss wash over her as the image of Sasuke in Aoba's place came behind her eyes and she tried to shove him away, but he held her tight, so she hissed in his ear, halfway to a sob. Don't you dare. There was nothing I could do to save Aoba, and if it had been you instead I don't know if I would have wanted to survive it. Losing Aoba was bad enough, but losing you would have been unbearable. You've never failed me, I was always right where I wanted to be. If losing me is unbearable, how do you think I feel when you keep taking hits for me? Sasuke asked. I'm not saying you should quit, being your teammate is the best thing that ever happened to me. I just want you to know I feel the same way about you. Her fingers tightened in his shirt before letting go and gently separated from him. Thanks, she said, sitting back against the headboard. Can I have my tea back? She asked. He passed it back. You did a really good job with this, she said. Thanks, he returned with a smile. It is really good. I'm going to have to thank Ino for it. She is great, Shikako agreed. They finished their tea, and Sasuke got up to put the cups back in the sink. Good night, she said, laying down and pulling the covers up to her chin. Good night, he returned, tapping the bump of her ankle as he passed. I am so fucked, Sasuke thought as he sat down at his table and tried not to look at his bed. The bed that he had woken up to Shikako being in. Shikako his teammate, his best friend, his family, the girl he was in love with, his mind unhelpfully filled in. I am so fucked, he hissed in despair, burying his face in his hands. I can't just not tell her. If she does it again, and she doesn't know I love her, then I'm lying to her and taking advantage of her. Which means I have to tell her I love her. I have to tell Shikako Nara I love her and hope that she doesn't hate you for it. A tiny, unwelcome voice whispered in the back of his mind, which he frantically chased away. She won't, she's my friend. Even if she doesn't want me, she won't hate me. How do I do that? Do I just tell her? Do I ask her out as well? How would she even want to be asked out? I need help, he conceded quietly, and very reluctantly, after an hour of getting nowhere. The first person he went to was Ino, because there was probably no one better suited to advise him on how to go about solving his conundrum than the girl who had known Shikako best and longest. Sasuke entered the flower shop with the kind of stealth that he would normally reserve for an ANBU mission as he made a careful sweep of the grounds, the inside store, and the small greenhouse garden just behind it. Upon finding it empty of customers, he dropped the stealth techniques and re-entered the store just as Kiba did, Akamaru immediately behind him, carrying a small cooler just large enough to fit a gallon of milk. Fuck my life. Kiba narrowed his eyes, a slow grin crawling up his face. Sasuke, long time no see, buddy. Didn't anybody ever tell you sneaking around like that off-duty was rude? I didn't smell you at all till you stepped in. Ino was similarly surprised, though she recovered quickly to greet them both. Are you off-duty though? She asked. Dad's upstairs in the kitchen if you need him. I can go get him if you want. She offered, pulling out her wallet and passing Kiba a few bills. He handed her the cooler in return. Sasuke shook his head as he approached the counter. I'm not. I was just making sure no one else was here. He paused, trying to ignore how suspicious his answer sounded. Kiba and Ino shared a look. What now? Kiba sighed. What awful, fucked up thing is coming after us next that no one else can know about? Sasuke shook his head. No, it's nothing like that. They looked at him expectantly. Akamaru, now tall enough that his head was at the level of Kiba's waist when standing, cocked his head to the side in the way puzzled dogs often do. I have a serious problem, he began. He took a breath before the plunge. I need to tell Shikako I love her, and I don't know how, he said in a rush, trying to spit the words out before he could choke on them. Kiba turned to Ino. I told you. I didn't disagree, she defended. I just thought it'd take longer than this. How long have you been talking about this? Sasuke asked blankly, feeling rather betrayed. Just after the second Chunin exams, Kiba admitted. So what's the issue? Just go up and tell her. You're good friends, even if she says no, she's not likely to hate you for it. You'll still be friends, right? There is not a romantic bone in your body, is there? Ino complained. Just go up and tell her. Are you trying to get him rejected? She'd just think it was a confession, and not asking her out. It's a little more complicated than that, Sasuke added, feeling more out of his depth with every second. So what's the issue? As it stands right now, you go up to her, you tell her how you feel, give her flowers that reinforce the message in that flower language, and ask if she would like to give you two a shot. He paused, opened his mouth and closed it again. Last night, Kino was waking her up a lot, so she came over to my place, and when I woke up this morning, she was back to back with me. He explained quietly, folding his arms across his chest. And I don't feel right about that. Because she didn't know how I feel about her, and if she did, I'm not sure she would have been okay with sharing a bed. And if it happens again, it feels like I'd be taking advantage or deceiving her somehow. Let's take this upstairs, Ino said after a minute. I need to feed Hanabi anyway. Coming out from behind the register to close down the shop. Out for lunch, the sign read. If you're worrying about that, at least you know your heart's in the right place. Ino's room was exactly the way he would have thought it might be. Flower arrangements threaded with samban everywhere, bright colors, and a large aquarium in one corner filled with growing flowers and a long brown rope. Is that a snake? Sasuke asked, his mouth going dry. Why is it always snakes? Ino followed his eyes toward the aquarium. Oh. Yes, that's Hanabi-chan. I found her getting tortured for some sick people's amusement, and brought her home after we got her all fixed up. That was just like Ino, Sasuke concluded dryly. Hanabi-chan, indeed, Kiba grumbled. She's never given me a problem since we brought her to Anko, Ino retorted, opening the aquarium to offer the snake a dead mouse from the scroll. It took it from her hand gently. Sasuke had to suppress a shudder. Anyway, Ino continued, rolling up the scroll and placing beside the aquarium, it's not as big a deal as you think it is. Especially if you go about explaining things like I think you want to. It's not like you actually did anything wrong. And you're taking steps to make sure she knows before she does it again. You just got caught off guard. Ino paused. Are you wanting to ask her out? Or are you just wanting to make sure she knows so she isn't sharing a bed with you not knowing what she means to you? Sasuke folded his arms and studied the floor. Do you think she might say yes? I figured she probably wouldn't. She's got a lot going on right now. The last time I asked her about boys, she said it was like asking her about having wings. I don't know, I certainly don't think that she would pursue it on her own. I don't think that's any reason not to try anyway. You're okay with her saying no and just being friends, right? Sasuke nodded, of course. Well, okay then, I can't imagine her ending that. Ino reassured him. She paused. You know that she doesn't want kids, right? You're okay with that? He considered that. No, I'm not. He shrugged, but I can't have everything. And if it's a choice between Shikako and no kids, or kids with someone that's not her, I know which one I have to pick. Someone that's not her, meaning Sakura. Ino accurately guessed. And that was Ino, Sasuke cursed. Perceptive enough to be helpful, but also far, far too perceptive for comfort. I get that Sakura is your friend, is Shikako's friend as well. I can respect that, and not be cruel to her. But that doesn't mean she doesn't make me feel like she's looking more at her idea of who I am, and my name, than who I am. Ino fixed him with a disapproving look. I'm not going to touch that. Do you know how you want to ask her out? The second was his former ANBU captain, Yugao Yuzuki. She was, after all, one half of the only healthy relationship he knew of that wasn't either the Nara's or Anko's thing that might not actually be a thing with Ginma, and there was no way in hell he was going to Anko for relationship advice. He wasn't that crazy. I need your advice, he stated when Yugao opened the door. She looked back at him blankly, in the way he knew he probably did after 72 hours of uninterrupted consciousness. I can come back later? He offered. Knowing you, no you won't, she said, opening the door further so he could enter. Off duty or on? She asked as she shut the door and sagged against it. Off, he answered. I need relationship advice. And you're one half of one of the only two healthy relationships I'm willing to ask advice from. And you're not asking the Naras because Shikako is at the root of your problem. Is it really that obvious? He grumbled. To anyone with eyes, she said, rolling her own. Look, it's really not that hard. Good relationships start with being good friends, and you're already that. Listen to each other, communicate. There's lots of ways to make someone feel appreciated, figure out the one she likes best, and do those a lot. Do over-the-top things to make her feel extra appreciated occasionally. Don't go to sleep on an argument. Don't keep track of arguments. Dates don't have to be big, just spend time with each other. And as awkward as this is going to be to hear and for me to say, 'cause I really should not be the one telling you this, if you can have a mature conversation about sex, you shouldn't be having it. In fact, don't even think about any of that, you two are way too young for it anyway, she advised, sending him back out her door with that last ear-scorching remark. The last person he got advice from, he wasn't planning on asking at all, but sitting at the kitchen table feeding Kino from a bottle, with Yoshino cutting up peppers for curry, and Shikamura having just exited the door to train with his team, he couldn't not be vividly reminded that as welcome as Shikako's family made him feel, they were still her family first, not his. And his relationship with Shikamaru was already strained. Shikako's relationship with her brother was already strained, and in no small part because of trouble he'd been the cause of. Yoshino-san, he started haltingly. Thank you, he bit off. You and Shikako-san have been very generous in the way you've treated me, even when I've been the cause of some of the issues between Shikako and Shikamaru. Yoshino sighed. What's happened? Are you and Shikako arguing? No. He shook his head. Not at all. He paused. I want to ask Shikako out. And I want to make sure I'm not going to just be causing more problems. Don't worry about Shikamaru, Yoshino said quietly after a moment. He's my son, and I love him and Shikako equally, but he's going to have to learn that his sister is capable of decisions on her own, for better or for worse, and trying to control her life isn't going to ever go the way he wants it to. She waited a moment to let that sink in before continuing. As for you asking my daughter out, Shikako sees you as family, and so do me and Shikako, whether that's as another son, or as a son-in-law doesn't matter to us. That's between you and Shikako. I have no idea what she'll say, but if you're asking what I think about it, I think you'll be good for each other, just as you've been as friends. Especially if you make that the priority. Okay. What's up? Shikako asked their first morning back training after she'd gotten back from ANBU school. You've been off all morning. Are you alright? I'm fine, he said, mouth dry. I have to tell you something. Okay. Well, you're. He thrust the flowers he had hidden behind his back into her hands. Making me nervous, she finished lamely, looking wide-eyed from the flowers to him and back again. I love you. He started, nervous and ashamed, the words stumbling from his mouth and his ears heating up. You're my best friend, and you're brave and powerful and smart, and funny, and beautiful, and I trust you more than anyone, and I'm very in love with you. He paused. I know you've got a lot going on right now, and I'm sorry to add this, but after it just didn't feel right to let you keep sleeping over like you did without telling you how I feel. I hope you're not offended. I want to keep being friends, it's the most important thing in my life. You're the most important person in my life. And if you're open to it, maybe we can try something new? Shikako looked embarrassed and stunned and like her world had been flipped upside down, She studied the flowers and how they were arranged. Studied him. I'm not offended, she said, shaking her head and taking his hand. I'm not. I don't think you didn't do anything wrong. You're still my best friend, that hasn't changed. I don't feel uncomfortable or like I can't trust you. He slumped in relief. Thank you? She lifted his chin to force him to look her in the eyes. We're okay. You are still my family. Okay? He nodded. Yeah. She pulled away. As for trying something new. She paused. I need to think about it. You went to Ino for help with this, didn't you? This arrangement is too professionally done to have been just you. He nodded. She nodded as well. Did she tell you about the last time she asked me about boys? She asked hesitantly, gesturing to him. She said you equated it to asking what it was like to have wings. He paused. She also said it was no reason for me to not ask anyway. She nodded. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a yes. But I'm not finding it's a leap for me. It's a huge leap for me, and the idea is more than a little terrifying for me. Not of you, she reassured him. Just romance in general. But she blushed hard. It may be a leap I want to take, especially if it's with you, because I can trust you not to hurt me, or try to go faster than I want. I liked hearing and seeing, she gestured at the flowers, what you think of me. She drew herself up. I just don't know. I don't know what any of this is supposed to feel like. And I need some time to think about it. Whether I want to take that leap or not. It's not a hard yes, but it's not a hard no either. It's an I'll think about it. You'll give me that, right? Of course, Sasuke responded. Take all the time you want. She shook her head. I promise you, I won't abuse this. I know this took a lot out of you. And as your friend, because you're my friend, I owe you an answer. I won't leave you hanging for too long, alright? You could still be thinking about it when Naruto comes back. I'm not going to rush you. You have a lot to think about already without all this. It's why I waited so long. He bit out a harsh laugh. If not for he gestured to her, I probably wouldn't have said anything until the Akatsuki are all dead. Shikako winced. I didn't make you feel uncomfortable, did I? She asked guiltily. No. Just, I felt like I was taking advantage of your trust. Or I felt like I would be, if you did it again without knowing. He corrected. She rolled her eyes. You wouldn't have been. But it's good to know. I'm glad you told me. She admitted. I'm going to go home. These flowers need water and a vase. I have a shift babysitting Kino this afternoon, he reminded her. Do you want me to give you some space? He asked. She shook her head. No. I need to go talk to Ino about these anyway, she said, holding up the flowers. You're okay, with me firmly not wanting kids, right? I know that's important to you. I'd rather be with you, and not have kids, than do what Mom did and marry someone she didn't want to be with and have them. Even if you say no, he answered. I'm not going to live like that. She nodded. Okay, she said quietly. I'll see you later then. How Ino got Hanabi. For a long time after the mission against the Sound Four, Ino is plagued with self-doubt. Self-doubt over her competency as a ninja, over her future, and most importantly over who she is as a person. Even after her decision to continue working and fighting, she constantly second-guesses herself over things that should have been easy personal decisions. But she gains it back, eventually, and little by little she figures out what comes from Orochimaru, and what is originally her own. It won't help her regain what she lost, there's no regaining that, even if she could figure out what that is, but the journey and all its tiny victories are instrumental in rebuilding her fractured confidence in herself. She finds things that she can use to define herself. She learns the edges of what information she knew before, and what she knows now. She learns that while Orochimaru could only care for a flower's toxicology, Ino knows that the iris, or lily, or angel's trumpet she sells at her family's, she has one of those too, and friends that love her and that she loves back, store is also beautiful. And with that revelation, she adds it to her growing list of things she knows about herself and moves on. She can tell whether something or someone is beautiful, and she can apply that to people's character, no matter how naive, or foolish, or weak a part of her that she characterizes as Orochimaru says of someone who is also kind, generous, and a good friend. And one day, she finds out that compassion, and a desire to help hurting people are also integral parts of who she is. Oh, she knew that she wanted to help people all along, that it was important. But she isn't quite able to separate the not totally selfish but just selfish enough reasons for that desire. Her family, who feeds and shelters and supports her, her friends, who watch her back and keep her from dying and help her on projects, her village, who supplies her and her allies with work and medical care and security to sleep at night. From the genuinely altruistic need she has to help broken people until her first mission outside the village almost a month after she brought pieces of her monster back with her. It's a relatively unexceptional and unproblematic bodyguard and escort mission for a rather rich minor nobleman who is traveling from Konoha to Otafukagai. Just the kind of mission she needs to ease back into the swing of things. Until they've delivered him to where he needs to be and he dismisses them, that's where it gets slightly more personal, and a little more complicated. Ino has learned about herself in the past month that she still finds joy in completely nonsensical things like window shopping for clothes, and taking her friends out to have fun, and in this particular case, convincing Shikamaru to gamble a game of shogi with some unfortunate bastard for enough money to take them all out to eat at no extra cost. In celebration of our mission completed, she says, while it's really an excuse to spend some extra time with them, get Shika to have some fun, because when your opponent is as poor at this game as he is, sometimes it's just fun to toy with him, and she knows Shika likes that kind of humor, and at the end, take Choji out to eat, because he still needs the extra weight, and it's something he likes to do. Ino loves her team, and she likes to make them happy even when they require some convincing, especially when they require convincing. So they enter one of the many, many colorful casinos in Otafukagai that promises to have shogi boards and a plethora of morons for Shikamaru to beat. It's just as Shikamaru has finished beating his third opponent in under 30 minutes that Ino sees a flash of movement and notices that, hey, why does something smell like blood around here? Subtly, she shifts to allow her a better view of the potential threat, and what she sees makes the breath catch in her throat and makes her wonder, for what seems like the billionth time in the last 6 months, how people could be so cruel as to delight in the suffering of other people, or in this case, creatures. Across the room, there is a cage made of chicken wire and glass, approximately 1 yard square, sitting upon a table. Gathered around that cage are some 20-odd men cheering, and inside it is a dancing, blood-spattered ferret, and a tired-looking, chocolate-brown cobra that looks almost on the edge of death. It's holding itself up in position to strike with the glass of its cage and seems to have a small chunk bitten out of its hood, the flesh stripped off of the ends of 3 of its ribs, and it's far from the only wound it has. A 3-inch strip of skin has been torn off lower on the snake's body, exposing muscle, and there are several bite marks along the rest of it. From what Ino can tell, the ferret is untouched. She automatically knows exactly what species it is. It's another thing she has picked up from Orochimaru. She knows it's a monocled cobra, that its venom is primarily a neurotoxin. It's one of the most toxic species on the continent drop for drop, and unconsciousness and death generally occurs shortly after envenomation from respiratory and kidney failure. But that's not the first thing that comes to her mind, and it's here that she learns that compassion, and a genuinely altruistic need to help broken people is another thing about herself that belongs solely to her, and never Orochimaru. Because what she sees first is a hurting, caged, beautiful animal in need of a lot of help, that despite everything the Master of Serpents has done to her, she still feels compassion for it, and she still wants to help it. All the rest are supporting details. So with a lot of fuss, and possibly the threat of violence, and 25 ryu for a shattered snake, she manages to convince her team to help her stop the fight, and very, very carefully, get the snake in a box with some disinfectant on its multiple wounds. And then she takes it to Kiba, who, bless him, seems to understand that this is important to her, and even expresses outrage over such barbarity. While he isn't able to do anything more than she did, he does call his mother and an expert, Anko, and although it takes well over a month to slowly bring it back to health, Ino does, eventually, talk her father into letting her keep the newly named Hanabi. After all, it would be a very poor waste of the time and resources she spent on it for some other sick excuse for a human being to catch it, and do the exact same thing, and it's not like she doesn't know how to take care of it now, and she's gotten terribly fond of it. And although she hates where she got her knowledge from, she finally got something good out of this entire situation, because thanks to her personal tragedy, she has both learned another thing about where Orochimaru stops and she begins, and used it to help someone. In Shikako's words, Ino knows she is good at people, and she is that way because she cares about people, and wants to fix them when they are hurt. Even when there is no personal benefit to her doing so, even when they aren't even human, and sometimes, just sometimes even when it could be dangerous to do so. As for Hanabi, her venom poisons Ino's Saban. It is, after all, the least she could do, the tiny, mortal daughter of Aoda thinks to herself as she lies on a rock warmed by the heat lamp above her with a nice, fat rat in her belly. Sasuke was decidedly off his game, Shikako deduced as she kneed him solidly in the hip. Had been all morning. He was distracted, block, anxious, shuriken aimed at right kidney, avoid, and generally this match was the last thing on his mind. But he wasn't freaking out, Shikako noticed, so it couldn't be too serious. Anxious, distracted Sasuke was a totally different animal from frightened, spooked Sasuke. That Sasuke was aggressive, pinpoint focused. He used training to lose himself in the match and threw everything else out the window. This wasn't that. Shikako decided, aiming a thrown kunai at his knee. She noted the second-to-last minute, snappy swipe of his own that knocked it aside. Normally it wouldn't have gotten anywhere near that close. Should I ask what's wrong? Or leave him to open up on his own? She debated. He's been doing better with that. Yes, she decided. He handles it better when he's asked first, or when he's trying to get me talking. She admitted to herself as he called the match, and with it, the end of morning training. Okay. What's up? Shikako asked after they had finished picking up their scattered weaponry. You've been off all morning. Are you all right? I'm fine. He hesitated. I have to tell you something. Well, now he was just being plain squirrely, Shikako decided. Okay. Well, you're. He thrust the flowers he had hidden behind his back into her hands. Making me nervous, she finished lamely, looking wide-eyed from the flowers to him, and back again. I love you. He started, clearly nervous and ashamed, the words stumbling from his mouth. You're my best friend, and you're brave and powerful and smart, and funny, and beautiful, and I trust you more than anyone, and I'm very in love with you. He paused. I know you've got a lot going on right now, and I'm sorry to add this, but after it just didn't feel right to let you keep sleeping over like you did without telling you how I feel. I hope you're not offended. I want to keep being friends, it's the most important thing in my life. You're the most important person in my life. And if you're open to it, maybe we can try something new? Oh. Shikako thought blankly, staring at the flowers as she struggled to process the torrent of words that had spilled out of her friend. Iris for heroism, 2 yellow roses and a red one, chrysanthemum for natural perfection, daffodil, power, all of these are things he loves about me. She realized, the jumpy, pleasantly restless feeling in her stomach increasing and a blush rising unrequested across her neck in equal intensity to the bewilderment, and no small amount of fear at the forefront of her thoughts. What do I do with this? She thought as she considered the far too professionally arranged flowers. Ino, she realized. Ino had helped him with this. Had been asked for help and given it. Must have known her work would be recognized, and helped him anyway. Was she saying that she approved? Or was she just giving the help she would give anyone in Sasuke's position? She would have thought this was very romantic. It is very romantic, Shikako admitted. The confession, stumbling and hurried as it was, with the flowers detailing her attractive qualities, was rather cute and thoughtful. She lifted her head to study him. His hopeful expression, the way he patiently waited. I hope you're not offended. She remembered him saying. Of course not. It didn't feel right to let you keep sleeping over like you did without telling you how I feel. Well, that's why he's worried. She understood. What would that be like, anyway, waking up to a kiss? She pulled back mentally immediately. Where did that come from? She wondered, panic flooding through her thoughts at the unfamiliar feeling. I've never thought about that, not even before. Is it that bad though? She asked herself. Would trying something so entirely new be so awful? She tried to imagine doing things that she saw couples do with the boy in front of her. Maybe she thought, maybe it might be nice. She shook her head. I'm not offended, she said, taking his hand. I'm not. I don't think you didn't do anything wrong. You're still my best friend, that hasn't changed. I don't feel uncomfortable or like I can't trust you, she clarified. He slumped in relief. Thank you? She lifted his chin to force him to look her in the eyes. We're okay. You are still my family. Okay? She reassured. He nodded. Yeah. She pulled away. As for trying something new, Shikako paused. I need to think about it. You went to Ino for help with this, didn't you? This arrangement is too professionally done to have been just you. He nodded. She nodded as well. Did she tell you about the last time she asked me about boys? She asked hesitantly, gesturing to him. She said you equated it to asking what it was like to have wings. Sasuke paused. She also said it was no reason for me to not ask anyway. He added, almost apologetic. We're going to need to talk about that. She nodded. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a yes. But I'm not finding it's a leap for me. It's a huge leap for me, and the idea is more than a little terrifying for me. Not of you, she reassured him. Just romance in general. But she blushed hard. It may be a leap I want to take, especially if it's with you, because I can trust you not to hurt me, or try to go faster than I want. I liked hearing and seeing, she gestured at the flowers, what you think of me. She drew herself up. I just don't know. I don't know what any of this is supposed to feel like. And I need some time to think about it. Whether I want to take that leap or not. It's not a hard yes, but it's not a hard no either. It's an I'll think about it. You'll give me that, right? Of course. Sasuke responded immediately. Take all the time you want. She shook her head. I promise you, I won't abuse this. I know this probably took a lot out of you. And as your friend, because you're my friend, I owe you an answer. I won't leave you hanging for too long, alright? You could still be thinking about it when Naruto comes back. I'm not going to rush you. You have a lot to think about already without all this. It's why I waited so long. He bit out a harsh laugh. If not for he gestured to her, I probably wouldn't have said anything until the Akatsuki are all dead. Shikako winced. I didn't make you feel uncomfortable, did I? She asked guiltily. No. Just, I felt like I was taking advantage of your trust. Or I felt like I would be, if you did it again without knowing. He corrected. She rolled her eyes. You wouldn't have been. But it's good to know. I'm glad you told me. She admitted. I'm going to go home. These flowers need water and a vase. I have a shift babysitting Kino this afternoon. He reminded her. Do you want me to give you some space? He asked. She shook her head. No. I need to go talk to Ino about these anyway. She said, holding up the flowers. You're okay, with me firmly not wanting kids, right? I know that's important to you. I'd rather be with you, and not have kids, than do what Mom did and marry someone she didn't want to be with and have them. Even if you say no, he answered. I'm not going to live like that. I'm sorry you had to find that out. She nodded, okay. She said quietly. I'll see you later then. Ino. Shikako announced, placing the flowers gently on the counter. Can we talk? Of course. Ino answered with a smile. Can you close up the shop for me? Sure. Can I have a vase for these? Shikako returned, moving to the door and closing it. She beamed. You're going to keep them then? She asked, picking a simple brown vase off the back shelf and filling it with water. Until they die, yeah? Shikako answered, flipping the sign from open. Come on in, to closed, come again later. So Ino began, leaning in over the counter. What happened? I still don't know. He confessed. I said I'd think about it. She answered. Sasuke told me you told him what I told you about what I thought about boys and dating the last time you asked me. He also told me that you said that was no reason for him not to try. Shikako paused. Ino waited. You had to have known I would recognize you helped him with these. What were you trying to do, and why did you tell him that? Are you trying to tell me something? Ino was silent, her eyes on the flowers and between them rather than her. I helped Sasuke because he loves you very much and was very concerned about doing what he thought was the right thing and being a good, honest friend, even though you might be mad at him. And I wanted to help him explain things as best and as clearly as he could so he didn't mess it up, and to reassure him that you wouldn't be angry with him. She answered, looking her in the eyes. I told him what you said because I didn't want to give him false hope, and that it wasn't a reason to not try because if you never risk failure, you never risk success. And Ino continued, raising a finger. I do think that if you gave him a try, you might find that you like it, and as close a pair of friends as you are now, I think you'll only be closer to and better for each other as you are now. And even if you don't, I don't think this will be the end of you two. You're already basically the old married couple that does everything together. She teased lightly. You're just missing out on the holding hands and kissing. Hey! Shikako exclaimed indignantly. That's not fair. We aren't like that. Ino smirked. You two are adorable. She argued. And everyone with a functioning set of eyes expected this to be a possibility. But I didn't do it to make it seem like I was trying to push you to say yes. I felt like Sasuke deserved, like you both deserved, to have the best chance I could give him to express his feelings for you the right way. And that's what I gave him. I'm behind you whichever answer you give him. I just want you to be happy. And so does he. No pressure, huh? Shikako asked. Ino nodded. She sighed. I just don't know what to do. She explained slowly. This is the most foreign thing I've ever had to face, and one of the most scary things I've ever had to think about. But I really, really like how it felt to hear him say how he felt it's the same rush you get when you're in combat, you know? Shikako said, grasping for anything she could use to explain her thoughts. The thrill feels exciting to a degree, but it's utterly terrifying at the same time, and it's just such a leap for me. The concept is so new like nothing else is. And I don't know if it's something I want to do or not. I love Sasuke. I just don't know if I love him the way he does me, and up until now I thought it wasn't that way. What's scary about it? The expectations, the dating, the romance? Is the touching? The extra emotional risk? Ino asked gently. I don't want children. I don't want to be a housewife. I don't want to break his heart. I don't want him to break my heart. I don't know if I'll like kissing or doing more with him, or if I'll just feel like I did something I felt disgusted and repulsed by and can't undo or forget. Hugging him and being hugged by him has never not been comforting and warm, but is anything else still going to be something I can enjoy and want? All of it, Shikako answered. It's all like I'm standing on a cliff and about to jump, and I don't know what I'll hit. Deep water or rocks? She paused. Maybe not the dating, she corrected, thinking about what it was like to just sit on the porch with her friend and play shogi, or work on a seal while he cooked a meal a few feet away. We hang out enough that I can't imagine that being uncomfortable. But it just seems like a mix between awkward and butterflies inside to think of him adding the candles to it, and I don't know for sure what it will be just yet. And I feel guilty, she realized. I feel like I'm stealing something else from Sakura. I feel like I stole her place on the team, like I stole her place on the Jounin track, and now Sasuke loves me instead of her, and I don't want to lose her friendship. But he's not her prize, and he doesn't have to feel anything he doesn't want to. What am I going to tell Sakura? She whispered. She'll be devastated. She'll hate me. Sakura has no right to hate you for this, Ino said firmly. She deserves to be happy and loved, but Sasuke is not under any obligation to love someone just because they love him. He's free to be in love with anyone he falls for. And so are you, and me, and Sakura, and everyone else. And he fell for you. Ino placed her hand over hers. This is no different than Shikamaru trying to get you to quit being a field ninja. I love Shikamaru and I love Sakura like family, and I know you do too. But you can't decide your life off of avoiding making them angry, and clearly you know that. Sakura will find someone who loves her like she deserves. It just won't be Mr. Uchiha. Shikako narrowed her eyes. You almost sound like you already know someone is interested in her. Ino lifted her chin loftily. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. She teased, I hold many secrets safe. This does bring a whole new meaning to KO Shikako though, doesn't it? Ino joked. Stop. Please. Shikako retorted, rolling her eyes, even as the corner of her mouth quirked into a smile. He thinks you're beautiful, she sang lightly. Stop, please. Tadaima. Shikako called as she stepped through the door around 4, kicking off her shoes as she did. Oh Kiri! What took you so long? Yoshino asked. You've been gone all day. Did you have an assignment? I had to talk to Ino. Shikako explained, setting down her vase of flowers and moving over to help. I like the flowers, she said, setting her to the task of cutting up vegetables. They're Sasuke's. Shikako answered with a smile, pausing the work of her knife to brace herself against the counter. From him, or for him? Yoshino asked quietly. From Shikako slumped, all the stress that had been building up finally collapsing across her shoulders. He told me he loved me and asked if I might want to try being together. And Mom, I still don't know what to say to him. Yoshino pulled her into a hug. Is this why he came over while you weren't here? She asked quietly. Shikako nodded silently. Should he have been here? She asked. We're still friends. He's still family. Shikako confirmed with a whisper. He was going to not come, because he wanted to give me space, but I told him it was okay. If you want to say no, you should. Shikako shook her head. That's not it. I don't know what I want to say. For every reason I would want to say no, there's a feeling that makes me want to try it. For every reason that makes me want to say yes, the idea scares me too much. I know I can trust him. That's not it. He's my best friend, and I know for a fact that whatever happens he'll respect what I need out of him. But that doesn't change how I feel about it. It doesn't change the fact that this is an enormous leap for me. I'm just fine like this. I feel comfortable and happy not having to consider it. I never would have thought about any of this any other way. And I was perfectly fine that way. But now that it's being brought up, she explained, I'm not finding myself completely turned off to the idea. The more I think about it, the more I want to try it. The more I think about it, the more I'm reminded that I'm comfortable right here where I am, and how foreign and strange I find it, and that I don't want to take the chance. Yoshino was silent for a moment. I didn't even think about me and Shikako being together until he kissed me right before he left for a mission, she reminded her. I didn't think about it either. But I can't say the idea had me anywhere near as stressed as it has you. It happened, I enjoyed it, and it turned out great. I think, she paused. I think that you are thinking about this as though it's a guaranteed straight line of constant progression from him asking you out to you getting married, and that's just not how this has to work. If you find that you're unhappy with the way things are going, you can cut it off. You can tell him you want to back up. You can take a break for a little while and then get back together, she reassured. Sasuke strikes me as the kind of person who is going to be fine with anything you tell him as long as he can tell you he loves you when he really needs to say it. And while there are problems that can come with that, it's perfect for this situation. Just be upfront with your concerns and how this is entirely new and strange for you. Or don't, Yoshino advised. There's nothing wrong with staying where you feel comfortable. I'll support you with whatever choice you make. Yoshino paused. Having said that, I'd better not find you trying to make all your concerns go away by jumping in the deep end and just getting used to it. That approach is fine for a cold stream in the summer, and a lot of other things, but it is not okay here. It's just going to end up seriously and irreparably hurting you both, and I shouldn't have to say that you're too young for it, but I will anyway, she said firmly. That's definitely not happening, Shikako confirmed just as strongly. I don't know if it ever will. I just don't know how any of this works. Put your friendship first. Just be good friends, have respect for each other's feelings, and talk about your concerns. It's you two versus the problem, not you versus him, Yoshino suggested. Shikako relaxed, then tensed. Oh no. Where is Shika? She asked, hesitant. He was here when I left this morning. Oh, he finally went on another C rank. Courier mission for the supply department. He'll be back tomorrow. Great, that's another thing I can leave for later. Shikako relaxed. Don't worry about him, Yoshino ordered. If you say yes, I will make sure he doesn't try to scare him off. At this point, I almost think I need to scare Shika off. Shikako grumbled, her crimes against the carrots growing more savage. Yoshino eyed the knife in her hand. You know he loves you. I know. Shikako bit out. I love him too. That doesn't mean I have to let him control my life until I'm safe enough for him. Like that's a thing that exists, anyway.